you go.
Hey, what's going on, folks? We have a great show for you today. So Joe Biden signed a same-sex marriage bill at the White House ceremony, which will ensure that federal government recognizes marriages and guarantees full benefits regardless of a couple's sex, race, ethnicity, or national origin. The law will not, however, require states to issue marriage licenses contrary to state laws. I'll tell you what I think about it and what I think about the word marriage, and then I want to talk about one of the only disagreements I have with libertarians. I agree with libertarians on taxes, a lot of issues. I think they go harder than Republicans and I appreciate them. But the one issue I disagree is their view on how to stop crime in major cities and police. And it's not because I'm some sort of Republican back the blue fanatic that doesn't see the police state as it is, but I just simply think they're very naive and foolish about how to lower crime in immoral cities that are out of control. And I'll explain myself, and I'd be willing to debate somebody later this week or next week in the libertarian community. Hope you enjoy this show. We'll have fun. Show starts now. It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today I have a dictionary right here. I believe it's from 1828, and I have the original definition for marriage. I do want to read that aloud, say what I think of the little Biden thing he passed. And then I want to talk about, I blew up libertarian Twitter today with a disagreement on police and kind of cop videos, escalation and stuff. So I wanted to explain myself and just kind of go through that, because I do agree with libertarians on most stuff. I think they're right on taxes. I think they put a lot of pressure on the GOP, which mostly, in my opinion, doesn't do enough. So in many ways, I'm 90%, 95% libertarian, but I do have one major disagreement, and I want to talk about it. But first, I want to say with this Biden, whatever, Respect for Marriage Act, it reminds me of this movie Pop Star. If you've never seen Pop Star, it's one of my favorite comedy movies. It's kind of like corny, but it's also kind of funny. It stars Andy Samberg, and he pretends to be this like Justin Bieber style pop star, and he's super douchey and very like conceited and egotistical. But there's one part where he makes a song about gay marriage, and the song is like joking about Macklemore's song, where it's like Macklemore's not gay, but he supports gay marriage. So long story short, in the movie, the song goes like, "I'm not gay, but if I was, I'd support equal rights. I'm not gay, but if I was, you can marry who you want." And then at the end of the song, it's like this whole virtue signal. Like he's like, "Oh, I support gay marriage, but I'm not gay, but I support it." At the end of it, Ringo Starr comes in, and Ringo Starr goes, "It's already legal now, bro. It's been legal for 10 years. Why are you making a song acting like it's illegal?" And it just reminds me of this, because they're like, "We're codifying interracial marriage and gay marriage." And it's like, dude, it's been legal for like a decade now. You're making this bill the same way they made the anti-lynching bill. They tried to use the Jussie Smollett situation suspiciously to be like, you know what? Lynching should be illegal in America. And it's like, lynching is illegal in all 50 states. It's a massive violent crime that you'll go to jail for a long time. But if you want to pass that bill, let's read the rest of the bill, because God knows what else is in that bill, since that is already illegal. It's the same thing with this. It's already legal, and I don't know anybody that cares about interracial marriage on a state level. There are some black activists that tell people to marry their own, and there's activists in other communities that say marry your own. But as far as legally, interracial marriage has not been in threat for probably 100 years now. Even when my grandfather got married to my grandmother, he was Italian, she was Puerto Rican. They didn't want her to marry him because they didn't like Italians, but they still got married in America, and that was like, I don't know, 60, 70, 80 years ago. So it's such a joke that they even did it. And I want to play this video real quick before I read the definition. I just found this clip of, for those listening on audio to the podcast, it's just Biden signing, and like, look at the characters in the background here. I'm going to play it. So you have Biden signing it, and just look at Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer's like rubbing his hands together. He looks like so happy. Nancy Pelosi in the background, her face is falling off. Ralph Nadler, whatever his name is, Jerry Nadler, looking weird. Kamala Harris just like hyenaing out over this stuff. Like, these are not the good guys. I did a screenshot for this video. And when I did the screenshot, I'm just looking at all their facial expressions and I'm like, they're so creepy. I feel like, you know, what's his name? Chuck Schumer rubbing his hands together. It's almost like looks like anti-Semitic propaganda. Like just, he's just like gleeful over it. I don't know. I just thought it was funny. I was like, this is a wild thing. But here's my thoughts on it. This is the original definition of marriage, okay? Maybe not the original one, but this is from 1828, okay? This is what it says in the dictionary, in Webster Dictionary of Marriage. It says marriage, the act of uniting a man and woman for life. Wedlock, the legal union of a man and woman for life. Marriage is a contract, both civil and religious, which the parties engage to live together in mutual affection and fidelity till death separate them. Marriage was instituted by God himself for the purpose of preventing the promiscuous intercourse of the sexes, for promoting domestic felicity, and for securing the maintenance and education of children. This dictionary is amazing because you want to question history more when you read this dictionary, because everything made a lot more sense in 1828. I'm not saying everything was perfect in the world, but that definition of marriage was beautiful. It explained it very well. And this is my point personally. If you're gay or lesbian, I have friends that are lesbian, gay, whatever. I don't hate them or, tell them what to do. It's not my business. But my point is this. So many conservatives complain about the word gender. Well, gender means a man and a woman. And there's a reason for that. There's like a scientific reason, a biblical reason, a reality reason. Like, even on a big meme account that I've been following, they said scientists just discovered today that snakes have clitorises, and so they do experience pleasure. And it's like on a female snake. So I'm like, oh, a woman exists. Now a woman exists in science when you're discovering snakes and if they have clitorises or not, but not in our reality because we're just so different from snake. Like we don't, that's offensive for humans, but for scientific research on animals, that's totally fine because that's how you distinguish a man from a woman. That's all we really have, but not anymore. And when it comes to marriage, I know a lot of conservatives oppose gay marriage. Some of them don't. I think most people nowadays just don't care because they're like, whatever, if you want to get scammed by taxes and now you're on like your baby mama's mama or your gay lover, gets half your money or something. It's like, do what you want. You can get scammed by the government too. Well, my point is this, there's a reason that the word marriage meant marriage, just like the same reason that gender meant gender. And I didn't always feel this way because I wasn't always as in tune as I am now. I wasn't always wise or as researched as I am, but marriage is between a man and a woman. And it's not because you hate other people or it's random. It was literally created to prevent promiscuity and just random acts of sex, to bring a man and a woman together for biological reasons, because a man has one thing, a woman has another thing. You put it together, you make a baby. Now you have a great model to raise that family with the man and the woman. You have both energies, you have both private parts, and you have the tools to create life. So that's the word for marriage. My personal thought is if you want to make another, union between people, they should have used a different word because there's a reason that word exists, just like the word gender exists. It's not because you hate the person who doesn't know what gender they are. It doesn't mean you hate the gay couple down the road. It just means that's what the word originally meant. And there was a scientific, biblical, and functional reason for that being that. So, as far as everybody saying, well, I don't really care about that, it's like, well, then I don't want to hear you complain about gender, because just like gender means those words, marriage means that for a reason. And people that don't understand why, that's part of the breakdown of the family. That's part of breakdown in society. And I know it might not be popular nowadays, but who cares what's popular? Because what's popular is stupid. Pop culture is brainwashing the kids. And I think her name is Shannon Michaela. That is her name. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to act like I don't know her. I'm just I didn't know what her second name was. I know it's Shannon. She posted on Twitter the other day. She said, if you don't want to have a kid, don't have sex with anybody you don't want to have a kid with. I get when I was in my 20s, that sounded stupid. I thought it was lame. Now that I'm in my early 30s, I totally agree. It's like sex. Oh, you're putting a rubber thing on your private part so you don't have kids. You're having promiscuous sex. Women are taking birth controls. They're destroying their body. Something bad happens. They go to the clinic. I'm not trying to down anybody for their personal experience, because I've made mistakes just like everybody has. But that is the truth. It's like all this other stuff is superficial. It's not healthy. And the best way to not have a kid is to not have sex with someone you don't want a kid with. And it's not cool to run around and just have sex, even though our culture tells us it is. And I believe that marriage is a good word that should have been preserved, and it hasn't been. And that's the original definition of it. And I understand why, because it's the perfect family unit to create life and to raise a kid. Not saying I hate other people. That's just how I feel. And I'm sticking to it. Second part of this, excuse me, real quick, is I had a huge disagreement with a lot of libertarian Twitter today, but hold on. Not all, just some. Just like when I talk about Jewish groups, apparently libertarians are sensitive too. So I have to specify that not all libertarians, or else they freak out. Like I say, Republicans suck. Oh my gosh, I'm a registered Republican. No, I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying I got to specify now. There's no groups, only individuals. So it's like libertarians are apparently that sensitive. They're all freaking out, being like, me. I'm like, dude, I'm responding to the official Libertarian Mises Caucus Twitter. I didn't know I couldn't say the word libertarian next to a libertarian account. My gosh, it's like people are so sensitive. It's insane. But anyway, I get it. They disagree with me. That's okay. But I tweeted about a video. I think it's from 2021. I did some background research on it. They tweeted a video on a cop punching someone in the face, and they were complaining about it. It's from Detroit. Before I start talking about that, I want to say I'm possibly more libertarian than I am Republican. I am Christian and conservative, and I do have values there with the Republican Party, but I actually think libertarians are right about just as much, if not more stuff than Republicans. I think they're right about taxes. I think the Republican Party is a socialist party that even when they win, they don't do anything. I do believe taxation is theft, and I've been invited to libertarian events, and I guess I'm probably going to get my invitation revoked after today, but that's okay. Libertarians tend to like me and retweet my stuff because I am very libertarian. It's not like I hate them, or I'm not one of these Republicans that like, oh, they're all dumb. No, I agree with them on most stuff, and I tend to agree with them more than Republicans most of the time. So I'm not this like boomer, and I'm not knocking boomers. We love the boomers here, but you get what I'm saying. I'm not this like, oh, everything's back to blue, please stay, like, hoorah. That's not who I am. So that's not the angle I'm coming from. And that's not why I disagree. With that being said, the video was of a guy getting punched in the face by the police, and it was out of context. And I knew it was out of context, but even in the out of context, the guy, they're walking at him, telling him to go that way. And he like takes a step forward, but really kind of stands still, takes a little step forward, waves his hands at a cop, and the cop punches the guy right in the face, right? He just knocks him out cold. I mean, it was definitely a massive punch. It probably didn't need to happen that way. I understand in a perfect world, it could have been better. But the cop who punched him was black, thank God, or else it probably would have been like months of riots and people freaking out. But because the cop was black, I think even though people are ticked off, it wasn't like this whole racial, like let's all fight with each other for 2 months. But, I watched it, and what I basically said was, and I found background for the background of the video. He didn't just walk up and punch him in the face, which I knew, I obviously could tell, but there was a huge brawl that broke out in Detroit, massive brawl, people fighting. The cops came in. I saw that guy that got punched in the face. They had warned him multiple times to go away, and he kept pushing against the cops. I found the full context video, which the libertarians, of course, won't post. But this guy was in a brawl, was pushing around, or at least near the brawl. They told him to get out of there. And it wasn't a small brawl. It was like a bunch of people. It got crazy. And the cops were like, get away. And the guy's like pushing against the cops. And it's like, bro, if you don't want to get punched in the face, stop doing that. It's stupid. So anyway, he doesn't listen multiple times. I watched it. He didn't listen multiple times. Later in the video, they're telling him to go away. He's waving his hands in the cop's face, and the dude just socks him right in the face. Here's what I'm trying. And then the guys who are arguing with me in the comment section, they're like, I wouldn't, it's not right to do that. And I asked them, and I just said, would you have waved your hand in the cop's face, like knowing that they could shoot you or punch you? I'm not saying they should, but like, would you have done that? Would you have not listened and just waved your hands at them? And he said, no, but that doesn't make it right. So why wouldn't you have done it though? Why can't that guy do it? Because you're not stupid and you don't want to get punched and you don't want to get shot. So you realize, I won't do that for your own personal preservation, but you expect that guy to be so lowly or something that he can't figure it out what you know. You wouldn't do it, but that's fine that he did it. So I'm personally, before I even get into what I think about policing a city and how to solve crime in a city, I don't like all police. I think what they did during COVID lockdowns are terrible. I think there's a lot of corruption. I think they do bad stuff. But I'm not one of these people that makes excuses for idiots that do dumb stuff. It's like, have a little bit of self accountability. When cops tell you to walk away from a brawl, walk away. And if you stand there waving your hands in their face, don't expect that something bad happens. I can't, I don't identify with the guy who got punched in the face after not listening a bunch of times, that was involved in a street brawl, that was pushing against the cops for a couple minutes and then wouldn't walk away. I don't identify with that person. If anything, I identify more with the cop, because it's like, bro, I told you 7 times to go away. You don't listen. You're waving your hands in my face. Sorry, bro. Sometimes lessons are learned the hard way. I don't identify with the degenerate guy who just won't listen to directions. Sorry, that's not like how I identify in life. With that being said, with that issue, I understand and I'm willing to debate a libertarian on it because, I had a kind of back and forth with the Mises Caucus, et cetera, and or somebody in it. I don't really know who I was talking to. I think Maj Toure weighed in, the guy who ran the account. He said that he was in law enforcement. And they got mad because I made a joke. I've always said it would be funny to send liberals to the south side of Chicago because they have all these grandiose ideas of what they would do to fix the city and racism, this and that. Yeah, it sounds good in San Francisco. If you really think you could solve that complex issue and you really think that the cops are so bad, then you go be a cop. I'm just saying, I don't think the liberals could be a cop in south side of Chicago or in Detroit or any major city, New Orleans. You wouldn't last for a week or 2 weeks. So I'm just saying, have a little bit of humility when you talk about the police in those areas, because they're not the problem. Sorry, I'm just being honest. You post one clip of an out of text guy or an out of context situation of a massive brawl that you don't show, of a guy who didn't listen that you don't show, and you just catch the tail end of it where he gets punched in the face. Why don't you post all the robberies and the murders and the rapes? And this is what's happening in these cities. It's not like, oh, the police are just running around beating people up. That's what liberals say, and that's what some libertarians try to paint. But that's not what's happening in these major cities. You're having violent crimes every day, rapes every day, liquor stores being shot up, people getting robbed. It's like a war zone. It's worse than some war zones that Americans are stationed. And the problem isn't the cops punching the guy in the face after a street brawl that he wouldn't walk around. You don't want to post all that other stuff because that's the main problem in the city. But with that being said, a lot of them think, well, police are being over excessive and police are doing too much, and the police brutality in Detroit and in Chicago and in New Orleans and in New York City and Philadelphia, that's the real problem, is the police brutality and like these poor innocent victims that are just getting hit from these monster police. I don't agree with that. I know some police can be corrupt, call out the bad ones, but I'm not going to demonize the black cop who's probably serving his community more than any of the people in the video that were fighting. He's actually probably a good guy that's trying to make the community better. But with that being said, in these neighborhoods, I personally believe the issue is more complex than police or no police. First, I want to say, I don't think capitalism works without morality. I don't think socialism works very little at all, but even if it did, morality would make it work. And when it comes to libertarianism doesn't work without morality. So the root of the problem, I believe, is not the police, and I don't think they think it's the police either. But what I want to say is, in these neighborhoods where the crime is high, where the murder rates are high, I believe the root of the issue is morality, lack of guidance, lack of leadership, lack of parents in the household, and lack of culture. It's a toxic culture. And it's not just poverty. The liberals try to say it's poverty. And I think other people will say, well, it's this and that. It's the government, it's the police, and it's the poverty. But obviously, the government's corrupt. I don't agree with that. There's some bad police. But it's not just poverty. I'm sorry. In certain communities, people tend to police their own. When Italians came over poor, they're not perfect. They started mobs. They did stuff. But there was some sort of self-policing. Asians come over with no money. They can't even speak the language. And they police themselves. They say, no, you know what? If you do that, you're getting in trouble. They have good families. They have tight structures. I'm not trying to be rude, but in a lot of these neighborhoods, in certain communities, the culture is it's cool to kill, it's cool to steal. That's what all the rappers are doing. And there's more people in the Black community and activist community that are condemning cops and condemning people trying to stop it than condemning their own kids and condemning their own people and saying, listen, this is not us. We can't do this. We have to rise out of it. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but in pop culture, mainstream media, and even in politics, you have more people making excuses for it. So the reason it doesn't change is not because of the cops. It's not even because of the politicians. It's because people keep making excuses. You could reframe the narrative and say, hey, we might be at a disadvantage. We might be at this, but we live in New York City. We're one train ride away from Manhattan, which has a bigger economy than most continents and most countries. So let's take this opportunity. Even if you live in Detroit, you might be 20 minutes away from the city where there's a lot of money that has more money than probably most of the Philippines. So yes, there's disadvantages, and I'm not saying there's not, but the main problem in these communities is not the cops, it's the toxic culture and the fact that people aren't parenting their kids, and the fact that the racial community as a whole in these high crime neighborhoods is justifying that, promoting that through all of their celebrities and music. And if you say to stop doing that, you're almost an outlier. So I'm sorry, but a lot of other cultures don't do that. They police their kids, put them in line, and make sure they know that that's not a way to live. And in these communities, a lot of people make excuses for it. And that's how I feel. So the joke I made was I always wanted to send liberals to these cities and be like, let's just make a reality show. Let's send liberals to some of the most high crime areas with their ideas and billions of dollars and whatever they want to do and see if they could fix it. I guarantee they can't. So I added libertarians to the joke and I said, let's send liberals and libertarians to these cities and see if they could fix it. And all hell broke loose. They freaked out. Oh, not all of us, this and that. You think I can't defend my own property? No, I think you can defend your own property. And I think Maj Toure got upset. I think you're very well armed and equipped to defend your own property. But what I'm saying is I don't think libertarians as a whole could fix Detroit. I just don't. I don't think your policies would fix it because there's a lack of understanding that it's a lack of morality and self-awareness in these communities that no amount of policing or not policing is going to solve it. So I'm not saying the police are the solution, and I'm not saying they're the problem. But if I were to analyze it accurately, if you remove the police from Detroit, I don't think it's going to get better. I think it's going to get worse. I don't think they're solving it because it's not an issue of that. For example, if you have a million people, everybody's moral, everybody's sane, everybody loves their neighbor, like the perfect utopian society, right? It doesn't matter if there's 0 police or 10,000 police, right? In that society with 0 police would be more safe than an immoral society with 10,000 police. But in immoral society, the police, I don't think are the bad people. I think they're helping those communities because the people in those communities are going insane with a lot of the crime. There's a lot of police. I think the police in those cities are doing more good than they're doing damage, although it's not perfect. If you take out the police in those neighborhoods and say, you know what, they're bad, you can arm yourself, we'll do private stuff. I'm not saying like it would be the worst thing, but there's always going to be a strong force on the ground. There's going to be some sort of gang or some sort of cartel that's going to take over, like in a perfect anarchy society. And I'm not saying all libertarians are anarchists, but in a perfect anarchist society, it's not like everybody just says kumbaya. The strongest force on the ground will lead. It's the same within Mexico. They have cartels. Well, the government says no. Well, nobody cares because the cartels have gotten more powerful than the government. And so that's just the reality of life. It's like big bank, take little bank, lion, eat the little ant. And that's just how it goes. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying I would want it, but I think if libertarians came to Detroit or south side of Chicago or New Orleans and said, hey, these are our ideology. The police are bad and we're going to do this. And, everything's going to work out because it's not the government. It's not the police. It's the lack of morality in these communities. So I think the police help in these communities. They're not perfect, but to say that the police are such a huge police brutality, I don't even think it's a top 20 problem in these societies. And I think that, all the people that are saying that, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't think you could last a week or a month in those cop shoes. And maybe you could. Maybe some people were in law enforcement, but that was the point I was trying to make where, that's just how I feel. I think they tend to kind of do it to be edgy and be like, look at these police knocking these people out who didn't listen. It's like, you think that they're the problem in those societies, that not how people are acting, all the crimes that they're doing. I don't think taking the police out of these neighborhoods would fix anything. I think it would just get worse. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. And that's what it is. I'm willing to debate or have a conversation about this because I do think that libertarians are right on taxes and other stuff. But when it comes to this, I think libertarianism works just like capitalism and just like, even socialism. Like if you have 50 people in the woods or 100 people in the woods, socialism will work for a little while and then it won't. But capitalism works, like libertarianism works. Everybody's just doing their thing. But when you go to the south side of Chicago or Detroit, I don't think any system works. I don't think socialism works. I don't think capitalism works. I don't think libertarianism works. But if you had to ask me, would taking the police out make these cities better or worse? It would be worse. I mean, it wouldn't solve itself out. You would have the gangs get more power just like the cartels have a lot of power in Mexico. And the cartels, some people think they're better than the government because the government's even more corrupt than in America. The police will just straight up rob you. Like, people think it's bad in America. Oh my God, the police. Dude, you have way more rights in America than you have in Mexico. I mean, pretty much if you just don't like walk at the police, and I know that there are cases where police do really do bad stuff. I've seen them. But for the most part, like, all of these out of context videos are people time and time again. It's like, stop, 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 punch. Oh my gosh. In Mexico, they just pull you over and say, give me a $500 or I'm going to arrest you. They literally rob you blind. And then the cartels, if you disagree with them, they'll shoot you in the middle of a bar, for talking bad about them. So that's what I'm not saying that Mexico's libertarian, but you get rid of the police, which you could say are the biggest gang in Chicago, and you replace it with libertarianism. It's not going to solve those cities. Libertarianism works in a nice hippie community where everybody believes the same thing. But I think the solution is morality. And to be quite fair, I personally think without the morality, the fact that they don't have morality, they don't have families telling them not to do this stuff. Some people do. Most people there are good people. And this is another thing. I've been to certain hoods in New York where, I used to go and buy the kids stuff. I didn't even have a lot of money, but I knew I could help them. And I knew there were so many smart kids. Like, he liked anime. He liked to skateboard. Everybody's not gangbanging. And the good kids in those neighborhoods that might not have a father, their mother might not be paying attention, they're the biggest victims of the crime. So these the innocent kids, which is most of them in the hood, these are the ones that don't mind seeing the cops. Like, when you're in the hood, it's like, if you're not doing that stuff, you don't care that much. So it's like, it's not like the cops in these hoods are like, oh my gosh, they're so bad. Most of the people there that are not doing crazy stuff are probably like, yeah, I don't want to die and get shot by a stray bullet from a gangbanger, like, on my way to school. So in general, it's like, I don't understand the concept of just like, oh yeah, it's really going to work out that way. But anyway, I think it's lack of family values, lack of family in general, terrible toxic culture. And that community likes to gatekeep that terrible toxic culture. And nothing's going to change until then. But until something changes and people start raising their own kids, people start telling them, no matter how impoverished you are, that you can't do that. When rappers stop pumping this message down kids' throats, when the Black activists in the liberal community stop making excuses for this stuff and acting like it's awesome and just saying, don't do that. The same way if you told your kid, what would you tell your kid? Hey, go get in a brawl, go push the police, go try to fight against them and then walk away, and then the police tell you to walk away and you start waving your arms in their face. Like, is that what you would tell your kid? Or would you tell your kid, don't get in a brawl? If it happens and the police come, listen to them. They have guns. They could be corrupt. Don't get shot. Don't resist arrest. Like, don't do these sort of things. That's what you would tell your kid if you want them to live. It's just common sense. You wouldn't tell them to make a scene for Twitter and then act like the victim. It's bad advice. But in general, until these communities get morality, police are not hurting. They're not. I live somewhere that because of Los Angeles, there's crime spilling over all the time. There's people robbing stores. And of course, they should get better private security. I understand, but the police are not hurting in my community. They're helping. They got helicopters to chase after people. If you're not doing anything wrong, they don't bother you. And in these mainstream cities, it's like, you take the police away, the gangs are going to get stronger, the crime's going to go up. And this concept of libertarianism, in my opinion, will completely shatter. I would love to see that change. I would love to see libertarians win an election, because I might vote for them over a Republican possibly. But you're like, all they do is get mad at me on Twitter and then go like role play and run for president and lose every time. It's like they get 2% of the vote. Get more positions locally. I know there are some, but it's like, if you run for governor and you get 1% of the vote and you go around like California and say, when I'm going to be governor, I'm your next governor. You're not, you're role playing. You're faking. You know what I'm saying? Put together a real concept to win, or else you're just role playing governor for your own clout for a couple of years. And then it's all gone. Like, put together a strategy to actually win an election. But in general, it's like, getting rid of the police in these cities would only make it worse. And they're, in my view, a net positive. Not saying they don't do anything wrong. Not saying they're not corrupt. The Department of Justice is corrupt. The intelligence communities are corrupt, but on a scale of like, if I had to list in Detroit and Chicago, in my view, what are the top 30 problems? I don't even know if the police make that list, in my view, because there's a lot more problems and they do way more good than harm in these communities. And only someone detached from reality would think, oh yeah, we get rid of that and it's just all going to fix itself, because that's the issue. It's not the issue. The issue is the culture, the issue is the people, the issue is the mindset, the issue is the fact that people just can't act right. And if, unfortunately, if you can't act right, someone, in this world, something bad's going to happen, or somebody's going to do something. Like, people got to act better. But when I was younger and doing stupider stuff, I hated the police. I was told by rap music, F the police, F the police. I'm not saying I agree with them when they become lackeys of the state and just carry out orders to shut down businesses. But as far as like the point I was trying to make is, anybody that's criticizing them, and not saying you can't, but anybody that's like, oh, they shouldn't have hit that guy. Well, you go on the street, then you tell someone, what are you going to play patty cakes with the guy? Like, at a certain point, man up. People don't listen. Like, and someone said, well, Anomaly, in what other aspect of life, when you wave your hands in someone's face, would they punch you? And I'm like, in a lot of aspects of life. Have you never seen a bar fight break out? You do that to somebody at a bar, they might punch you too. Should they have punched you? No, but you shouldn't have waved your hand. Like, do people have no concept of reality? I don't understand what it is. Like, I'm not saying you should get punched in the face at a bar, but if you start fighting with somebody and pushing somebody, like, there's a chance, your chance of getting punched just went from like 0.001% to like 50%. Like, that's just how the world works. So I don't know. What do you guys think? I just don't think it's the police's job to play patty cake with everyone when they don't listen 5 times. And at a certain point, it's like, stop, just listen a little bit. If the police are telling you shut down your business because of COVID, yeah, don't listen. But if they're telling you walk away from the street brawl, bro, we got to break this thing up. In a neighborhood, I was reading that they wanted more police because there's street brawls all the time. It's like, I watched it as a massive, like, no, it's the cop's fault though. The guy just won't walk away. He's pushing. I saw the full video. Like, it's, and these are, no offense, but the people that disagree with me, it's fine. We all have our own concept of how to live. It's just, I don't want to live around people that think that's the way to live. I want to live around people that police their own children, police their own friends, police their own family. If my kid or my, friend does something, or my family member does something stupid, I'm not going to pat him on the back and be like, you're a hero. Like, dude, don't make that same mistake again. Stop putting yourself in those situations. That's like real stuff. Like, I don't understand the concept of like, oh yeah, that's going to solve the problem. Naive, foolish. And I stand by my tweet. Send liberals or libertarians or anyone. I hope they win in one of these major cities. I hope they try out all their non-aggression principles, and, people will do it. It's not going to work. It's not going to work in these big cities. The people need to change. And I don't think it's going to change just through government policy or concept, personally. And someone said to me, I don't know his name, but he was like, libertarianism fixes everything. It will cure people's morality. Well, now that's your religion. Like, that's not my religion. I'm sure people disagree with my religion here. But like, if you think it cures literally everything, that's your new religion now. But I don't think it does that. I don't think libertarian principles can fix an immoral society. I don't think that at all, actually. I think the opposite is true. And then you're in for a rude awakening when you find out what happens when certain power vacuums are put in. Other people will rise to the occasion. That's my view. Joanne, I'm just going to read some comments, whether people agree or disagree. Joanne said, agree. You say what I say. And I don't just completely back the blue. I don't think they're above scrutiny, but I do personally think that liberals or libertarians that complain about excessive police brutality in high crime neighborhoods should go to high crime neighborhoods and see how they would police it. I think they would be completely outmatched. I think maybe you could defend yourself, but as far as fixing the whole city, it's not like the police are just running around punching people in the face. There's rapes every day, murders every day. The last thing I would want to be is a police in New Orleans or south side of Chicago, like the last thing. So when I talk about them, even when I criticize them, I have an ounce of humility. Like, my gosh, it's harder to be a police officer on the south side of Chicago or in New Orleans than it is to be a military member for most cases. Some military members go to war. Probably the majority of military members now just sit on a base somewhere and go through camp. And I'm not saying it's not hard. The military is tough. But what I'm saying is, like, being a cop in a high crime city is right up there, if not exceeding in certain categories, depending if you're like National Guard or something. Like, it's one of the most difficult jobs in the world. And to just sit on Twitter and be like, oh, he shouldn't have done that. It's like, bro, you would not last a week or a month in these neighborhoods. And then people are like, well, what do you think? I'm not saying I want to. I don't want to live in those neighborhoods. No offense. I don't want to live around people who think like that. I don't want to live around people who would rob from their own neighbor. I don't want to. I've been to certain neighborhoods where all they do is harass and treat the bodega like garbage. I've been to the hoods in New York, and literally every other person that comes in is literally threatening to kill. And I'm not even trying to exaggerate, but like I've been to Bed-Stuy, which is like half hipster, half kind of ghetto. But in general, I used to stay there for a week, and I saw in a week multiple times people threaten to kill the Indian bodega guy. It's like, I don't want to live in a community where people treat the bodega guy like garbage. Like that guy's selling you products. Like in a normal, sane society, you're like, yeah, even if you're poor, I've grown up in other poor places where it's like, yes, people don't have money. Yes, people are working class. Yes, some people are alcoholics and struggling, but people don't treat people like that. That's not normal. It doesn't matter how poor or rich you are. There's rich people that treat everybody like garbage. But the point I'm saying is like, in these communities, to act like the police is this massive problem is the biggest lie. A libertarian moving to Bed-Stuy, viewing what happens there in a week, the people are going nuts, dude. They're treating everybody like garbage. They're threatening to kill left and right. You think they're going to give a crap about what book you have in your hand or what philosophy of non-principle and this is my... No one cares, dude. In the hood, no one cares about your libertarian principles. It's called the real world. Like, oh, well, I believe in socialism and Karl Marx. Who cares? These people are not listening to you. It's not going to matter. It's not going to change whether gun control goes to 0 or 100%, whether the government implements, principles of Ron Paul in the cities. I like Ron Paul. It's not going to fix the situation. It's not going to fix the crime. And scapegoating the police in these areas and be like, yeah, their aggression is the problem. Yeah, that's safe to say on Twitter. That sounds good, but it's not going to work. And I'm not being rude. I'm not being mean. That's just how I feel. It's like, I've seen it. It's deeper than just what the police are doing or what they're not doing. And I personally think it would be worse, but let me see. I'm going to read. Someone said, weak, scared men is the #1 problem with America. If you're confident to go outside that you can handle yourself, that's your problem. Stay inside. I hear you. Someone said, yeah, those Democrat states are trash on purpose. But here's the thing. People don't want to face this issue because it's edgy, but go to Vermont. Is Vermont dangerous? It's so Democrat. Is it super It's not dangerous because the people there don't act crazy. Okay? I know certain liberal areas that are beautiful because the majority of the people who live there don't do violent crime. So it's deeper than even just Democrat and Republican. Obviously, the Democrats run the cities, absolutely, but some of the most violent states are Republican. I'm not saying it's Republicans' fault, but the problem isn't even Democrat or Republican. Democrats make it worse, no question. The problem is the people that live there and their mindset and their ideology and their culture. And no Republican's going to fix it. And how did, when crime went down in New York City, how did a Republican semi-fix it? By going harder on crime. He didn't abolish the police and he didn't say, oh, non-aggression principle. Rudy Giuliani went harder and New York got safer because of it. Because that's the only way, unfortunately. I wish it wasn't, but in these cities, like if people are raping and killing and robbing and treating everybody like garbage, either you let it happen or you man up and create a police force that stops those people. And that's what they did. And New York got better from it. And now Democrats are running. So, tough love is really the only answer. I'm sorry. It's like, oh, well, it's the Democrats. Yeah, Democrats are making it worse because they're too easy on criminals. Absolutely. But I see libertarians on this situation. They're similar to liberals. They're like, yeah, it's the police's fault. It's not, we got to go easier on the people. Easier? Bro, you'd get blown out of the water in any hood in America in 2 seconds. No one cares about your, flag or principles. Like, it's welcome to the hood. Welcome to the jungle. Like, it's not, you're not sitting in the hills of, wherever you're tweeting from. Like, it's the real world. People aren't acting right. And your ideas of how to run government are not going to change that. Either you crack down and get tougher on it, or you look like an idiot and you get blown out of the water and your city gets run over. Unfortunately, that's how the world works. So I don't, the time that it does go down, but obviously Democrats police worse and they don't know what they're doing. But the elephant in the room is the thing that nobody wants to talk about. It's the culture and it's the mindset in a group of people, and they don't want to face it. And that's why it just keeps getting worse. And I could reference 30 different ethnic groups. I mean, Indian people. There's a lot of, how come Indian people, they come here broke? India is a very poor country. There's money there if you're, connected to the royals and stuff, but or whatever they call the people over there that run everything. But Indians come here with no money. They can't speak the language. How come they're not committing crazy acts of crime all the time? It's because they police their own group. They say, go to school, get an education, be a doctor, be a lawyer. My mom told me that. I'm pretty much a letdown, I think, because I wasn't a doctor or a lawyer. But you don't see a massive crime spike even in poor Indian communities, and they start to accumulate wealth. I'm sorry, but it's the culture. It is absolutely nearly 100% the culture and the mindset. And I don't say this from a negative perspective, because there's 30 different ethnic groups that come to this country, don't speak the language, don't have money, and make something of themselves. And even when they're broke, they don't commit crime because they don't allow it, they don't accept it, and they don't think it's cool. But in certain communities, they think it's cool, they accept it, and they make more excuses like the libertarians do for the people that won't listen than for what's actually going on there. It's like, that's no libertarian wants to talk about that, dude. It's like, it's a joke. It's a politically correct joke. And tough love is the only way out of this, unfortunately. We need all of our leaders in that community, in politics, to say, listen, we'll help you, we'll show you love, we'll give you this. Even people want reparations, whatever, whether they get it or not, it's not going to change. You can give everyone $100,000. I believe fundamentally it still wouldn't change, because people got to get a different mindset. They got to love your, classic biblical principles, love your neighbor. And I'm not saying everybody's doing that, but so many people are doing that in certain areas that it's just not safe or normal anymore. And then you have the media and society and libertarians and liberals and these people basically being like, oh, no, it's not your fault. You shouldn't listen. You shouldn't listen to directions when they give it to you 5 times. You should just play the victim. That's what you should do. And then it's going to fix it. We don't need to be tougher on crime. We need to be easier on crime. That's not going to work. It's only going to make it worse. And the sad part is the people who are going to suffer are the kids who aren't doing that stuff, which is the majority. A majority of people in these neighborhoods are not committing crimes. There's great kids there. There's great adults there, and they're being run off the streets with gang violence. And those are the ones, when they see the police, I guarantee you that people in these neighborhoods that are not doing stuff, they don't mind seeing the police officers that much, because they know that they're not living in libertarian Twitter. They're living in a major city where bullets are flying by all the time. And unfortunately, they don't have the luxury of going to school and knowing that they're going to come back alive. So, it's not, those are the people that are going to suffer. I want to read someone said, you're an authoritarian, dude. I'm an authoritarian because I'm more libertarian than the Republican Party, but I think that police aren't the problem. I'm an authoritarian. Bro, take that mindset to the south side of Chicago. You're an authoritarian, dude. Go tell them. Go fix the problem with your ideas of noble libertarianism. You wouldn't, dude. It's like the same as socialism. It sounds good, but unfortunately, that's not how this world works. And I personally believe in God, and I believe in morality, and I don't think capitalism's the answer either if you have immoral people. In fact, you can find scripture from the founding fathers about that. These are built for moral people. These rules don't work if nobody's moral. This country's immoral. Libertarianism's not going to fix it. Liberalism's not going to fix it. People need to be moral. No amount of handouts. Give everybody $1 million. I don't care. Let's tank the entire economy. Who cares? We give money to Ukraine. We give it to Big Pharma. Let's do reparations for everybody just to prove it's not going to change anything. It's a mindset. It's a culture. It's a mentality. And, there's billionaires who treat people like garbage, and there's people that are poor who treat people like garbage. If you go to a lower to middle class neighborhood for Halloween, you get more candy than if you go to a rich neighborhood. Why? Because it's not just, oh, you're wealthy, you give more money. Some wealthy people are the stingiest people you've ever met. You get better candy when you go to poor or middle class neighborhoods because they're just nicer people. So, being rich or poor doesn't make you moral or immoral, and it doesn't make you a good or bad person. So this idea that people can be immoral because they're poor is the problem. And this is being pushed by liberals, libertarians, even the bigotry of low expectations. Like the person that was mad at what I said, he admitted that he wouldn't do that and do that to a cop. But he's okay for another guy to do it, but he wouldn't do it. Well, why? Is that the bigotry of low expectations? You're smart enough to know that that's not a smart thing to do. Like I should be able to walk across the street and not get hit by a car, but I look both ways because I understand, even when the crosswalk says I should go. In a perfect world, every time I should be able to close my eyes and walk across because there's the little green man that says I could go, but they stop. But do you know what I do? I still look both ways when I go because I understand that someone could not be paying attention and go through a red light. Oh, but if that's just the type of person I am. I'm real. I look around, I pay attention. I'm not like, I'm going to just sit on my phone and walk around because I have the right of way. Like, sorry, it's not a perfect world. Everybody doesn't drive perfect. Everybody doesn't act perfect. So this idea that, well, I would not do that to a police because I'm smart enough to not get punched in the face, but this guy will do it. And it's okay that he does it because this guy shouldn't have done it back. Like, okay, if you get in a bar argument, like people shouldn't start brawling, but that happens. It doesn't mean it's right, but that's the world. So either you live in the world, acknowledge it for what it is, or you play these fantasy games that, in my opinion, are very similar to Bernie Sanders. And to be honest, even Republicans play fantasy games. I tend to like libertarians more than Republicans, to be quite honest. It's not like I dislike libertarians. I tend to like them more than Republicans most of the time because I think they're right about 90 something percent. But I think this is the one kind of like naive, foolish aspect to the ideology. Someone said, can we start a new party called the Morality Party? Well, no party is really moral. I would say the Democratic Party is completely immoral. The Republican Party is like fake moral, half moral. And libertarians have morality, but it doesn't derive from God. A lot of times it derives from their ideology. I don't think that works over time. That's just my opinion. People don't have to agree with it. Let me read some comments. Anybody who disagrees, that's fine too. I don't care. I'm not saying I have all the answers or the solutions. I'm just saying I'm not going to sit on Twitter, post a video out of context of a cop punching someone without the context of what happened before and act like I could do a better job than that jacked black dude who's like defending his own probably neighborhood in a way you could never do. I'm not saying that he could have done it different. I'm just saying I'm not going to sit on my pedestal and be like, oh yeah, I could police Detroit better. No, I couldn't. And neither could you. The difference is I admit I couldn't, and you act like you could do better than that guy, and you can't, in my view. So someone said they support drugs, open borders, and group. Well, not all. There's different sects of libertarians that are cracking down on it. I agree with the Mises Caucus on almost everything, just not the policing aspect. And I understand that they're going in the right direction, and I get what they're saying. They're saying that people can defend themselves, and also that there can be private policing to some extent. I understand these things, but let me read some. Someone said starting a new party called the Truth Party. It's tough. Someone said private security like Detroit has already done. They're starting to get private security even in Philadelphia, I mean, shouldn't need it, but they're doing it. Yeah, because even the police can't keep up with all the crime. So there's not even enough police or enough police presence to stop the crime. So now people are taking it into their own hands. We'll see what happens. I don't think it's going to get, now it's going to get way better. I mean, it's better than if they didn't have guns, but someone said, you keep complaining, you'll get something worse. I wouldn't say I'm complaining. Do my Mark Levin warmonger impression, please. I don't even really know what Mark Levin sounds like. I only know what he looks like. He's like, I'm conservative. Start a war with Ukraine. Yeah. Is that good or no? Someone said, look what's happening in Brussels. Personally, I believe in just like tough love. I don't know. That's why when I understand people don't agree with me, so that's fine. But like when I say libertarians, like, you mean all of us? No, I don't mean all of you. I'm just saying that account that I follow, them and most libertarians, I don't know. If I say the Republican Party is weak and it sucks, does that mean you? Like, is this how we are? I'm sorry, but I'm not this sensitive about it. Someone could say the Republican Party sucks, and I'll be like, true. Like that's true. Or like the Libertarian Party's weak in this section. Yeah, I agree. Like, oh no, I'm a you mean me? White people are in BLM. Me? I'm not. Like this started like 3 weeks ago. I've never seen this in my life before Kanye talked about Jewish thing. And then everyone started this fake ideology of don't talk about individuals, don't talk about groups, only talk about individuals. And I'm like, so the Democratic Party, the New York Giants, white people, are these terms we're going to stop using because like there is no group? There are groups. It doesn't mean everyone, but who did it? Them? Who do you mean by them? I don't know. Those people. Those people. It's like, is this the game we're playing now? Ye exposed this in the Jewish world, but honestly, it's libertarians too. They're like, you mean me? No, I'm talking specifically to the Mises thing, and I made a joke to send liberals and libertarians. Every liberal, am I gonna deport every liberal on a train to Detroit? Is every libertarian you have to like? No, dude, it's a joke. I'm just saying it would be funny to watch liberals and libertarians in Detroit trying to fix it. That's all I said. And why are you so offended by that? I don't get it. Like, me? No, not you, dude. Like, I'm just saying, like, people that think that the cops are doing such a bad job, I don't think they could do a better job. I don't think Colin Kaepernick can do a better job. I don't think the libertarian can do a better job. Sorry, that's what I think. No, not every single, like, is this what I have to do now? I have to, like, everything I say, I got to be like, well, not everybody, like, Christians are getting weak. Well, not every Christian. I'm a strong Christian. Okay, dude, if you're a strong Christian, are you really going to get upset with me saying Christians are being too weak? If you're a strong Republican, are you not happy I'm calling out the Republican Party? Like, I got to specify, I think the people who watch my show are strong enough to know when I say Republicans suck, I'm not talking about myself or you. Unless you suck, I don't know. It's like, let me see. To lower taxes and remove excess regulation, someone said, and ban mandatory school, help them get better ways of crime. Well, here's my take on homelessness as well. And people might not disagree with it or agree with this, but I think with homelessness, it's not that hard to solve. You got to give people the resources, but then you need tough love. You can't just give everyone resources and be like, go ahead, but you got to go to bed at 11 o'clock. That's what they do in liberal cities. No one cares. No one listens. They have facilities. They have things ready. People don't want them. In fact, in LA, I lived there for a while, so I know when they build homeless facilities, the homelessness gets worse. You build a homeless facility in a nice area, it increases because you're giving people things and they go to where you're giving them stuff, but they don't listen enough to actually solve their problem because they don't. So the way to solve homelessness, yes, you could have all these facilities, mental health, jobs, but you have to enforce it. I'm sorry, I don't care if you're liberal, libertarian, conservative, or like, I'm not saying people believe this, liberals do. You have to enforce it. It's now illegal. And this is not, I'm not an authoritarian. It's just like either you have a functional city or you don't. You can't do this, okay? I don't think you should be allowed to just like crap on a public street. I don't think you should be able to just crap on a playground. Like, I'm sorry, does that make me an authoritarian because I don't want people to shit on a playground where kids play? No, it makes me a real man that isn't pathetic. It's like, no, don't do that. It's illegal. If you do this, you're going to get sent to one of these places. If you don't want to go, you're going to get kicked out of town, hit the road jack, or go to jail. It's that simple. Homelessness would be solved in 3 months. It's not mean. It's giving everyone every resource in the world. Now do it or get the hell out of here. It's the same thing with crime. I think that police who do bad stuff should be penalized. But this idea of like they're all so bad in the city and that's the problem is not the police in the city. Sorry. The problem is the culture, the people, the mindset, and the fact that people are doing immoral, wicked stuff. And I don't believe if you gave everyone $200,000, I don't think it would change. Personally, I think people would start to ball out and certain people would do certain things. But, I don't personally believe, and you could say this makes me bad, but I think it actually makes me nicer. I don't believe that being rich or poor gives you morality. You can go to some poor countries and they're the nicest people in the world. How come they're not just killing everybody? It's like, because they're not bad people. And I'm not saying every poor person does that in bad neighborhoods. Most people are good people, but people will say, oh, you hate them. No, I think you have the bigotry of low expectations. Like there's poorer countries than the poorest city in here that'll treat you like family. People need morals, values, and family structure. And no amount of libertarianism is going to fix that. And I also think that police will make it better, but it's not going to fix it either. But the best way to solve the crime in the city is probably to do what Giuliani did and just crack down hard on it. Make the criminals feel uncomfortable. Don't make the kids who aren't criminals feel uncomfortable. Right now, people in major cities feel uncomfortable. The people shitting on the streets feel comfortable. The people shitting on playgrounds feel comfortable. People that go in and out of jail feel more comfortable than the kid walking to school or the girl that's getting jumped. I watched a girl in LA just get jumped in broad daylight. We ran up, the dude ran away. Luckily, she's fine. I don't even think she got robbed. I can't remember if she got her bag taken or not, but it's like, this is not nice to run a city this way. LA sucks. Most major cities suck. New York is declining. Detroit is Detroit. No offense. It's just like Chicago's nice on the one side, crappy on the other side. I understand that people need opportunities and help, but at the end of the day, it's like tough love. I feel this way about everything. Even when I'm challenging libertarians, I would vote libertarian over a lot of Republicans. I want you guys to put together a good campaign and get more than 1% of the vote. If not, wasting my time. I don't say this to be, sometimes I troll Nuance, bro, on Twitter. I'm like, bro, make more videos. You spend too much time talking on Twitter, make more videos. I bully him and he's like, yo, I made 4 videos this month. I made more videos. Yeah, I'm not being mean. I'm trying to bully him into making videos because he's too talented to just sit there and talk on Twitter all the time. Like, make some content, bro. You're good at it. Like, stop talking so much, at least make more videos. So that's how I feel. It's the same with if you're a personal trainer or an athlete, like you challenge your team. Like, that's how you get better. I'm challenging. This is my challenge. Someone said Anomaly's talking about himself. I don't even know what you're referring to, but if you want to think that, sure. Let me see. Read some comments. How many homes could $1 billion provide? They're wasting money in LA all the time. They have enough stuff. They just don't have the enforcement. You have to enforce it. If you're a personal trainer and you say, hey, you can be an MMA fighter, just do what you want, get really fat. No, the best personal trainer, discipline. Discipline's important, okay? And unfortunately, if you're a country, someone has to enforce the discipline if people aren't listening, because it goes 2 ways. I understand in a perfect world, no one has to do anything. There's no police, there's no money. We all just sit and play patty cake and kumbaya. But that's not the world we live in. So you have to realistically look at LA and say, well, if people aren't going to act right, either we sit here and play patty cake and our ideas of liberalism and libertarianism, or we use our resources to stop it. That's the only really options. And right now, nobody's stopping it. Someone said bootlicker. Bootlicker of who? Who am I licking the boots of? Someone said the homelessness is out of control because they don't enforce it. You have to give people the resources, but then enforce it. There's rules everywhere, guys, even in a functional society. It's like, don't come here after 10. You come at 11, get out, dude. You don't listen, something happens. Like, there's rules in the world. Like, that's how it keeps going. Like, we have a clock, 24 hours. That's how we keep time. I don't understand what people think. Like, oh, if we just let them, then you get just filth and crap. Unfortunately, everybody's not an inventor and a designer and a freedom fighter. Like, there's some losers out there, unfortunately. And if you allow the losers to drag down society, it just keeps getting worse. LA's the perfect example of failed ideology. It doesn't have to be that many homelessness. They allow it because they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to address it, and they don't enforce anything. You got to enforce it. Here's a mental facility. Here's a home. Here's a job. Here's a drug help. Here's everything you need. But you know what you can't do? You can't sit downtown anymore. You can't, okay? You have a month to get off the streets. We'll give you 5 months, whatever. Here's all the things. We give you everything. Get out, do something, or you're getting kicked out of town or going to jail. Homelessness would be over, guys. I've interviewed homeless people. I've talked to them. Most people, a lot of them obviously have mental problems and drug problems, but some of them, they're like, yo, I could go to my aunt's house. Like, I've had conversations. I lived in LA for 7 years. I took the bus all the time. Like, a lot of times it's just lack of enforcement. They're like, well, whatever, it's easier. I can do this. Like, I'm just hanging out. Like, not everybody. Obviously, some people have some issues, but the lack of enforcement is the reason there's homelessness. And it grows and grows and grows and grows and grows because all they do is build facilities. Here's a facility. We'll give you food. We'll give you everything you want. You could shower here. But then, we'll let you just walk all over us like a doormat, and you don't even have to stay there because you want to do heroin outside for 12 o'clock. So people go, okay, I'll shower. I'll get my needles. I'll get my food. Thank you. Okay, I'm going out to do the same thing I'm doing. And then in nice areas of LA where they build homeless facilities, they went from having no homeless problem to a little homeless problem to a massive homeless problem. Building facilities actually creates more homeless people. The dumbest people on the earth are like, all you need to do to solve homelessness is build homes. Yeah, that sounds good if you're telling it to a 3-year-old, but in reality, that's not how it works because there's no enforcement. You have to enforce certain things, unfortunately, or else they don't go away. That's not authoritarianism. That's just like basic reality. Like, it's not going anywhere because they don't enforce it. Every time they build housing facilities, the homeless problem grows right outside. because there's no enforcement. It's not like get in here or you're getting arrested. It's like use us. And then we'll just let this whole neighborhood go to crap and we won't do anything because we're a bunch of social workers who work for the government. Who, we just think it's like, okay. And honestly, it's the same thing with crime. I think, certain neighborhoods have it under control. Certain cities do a good job, and certain cities don't do a good job. So if you just let people do their own thing, some people are going to do the right thing. Some people are going to do the wrong thing. And I don't think any bad neighborhood would be solved by libertarianism. Not a single one. I don't think a single one would get better. Would it get worse? I think a little bit. Maybe stay the same. I don't know. Someone said, Colt boy, what's your solution? I literally just told you my solution for homelessness is easy. Give everyone every resource, the house, the drug help, the mental help, the job, whatever they need, give them a set period of time, but make it illegal to shit on the streets. Make it illegal to camp outside places. It's now illegal. It's that simple. That's my solution. Give them everything, but enforce, The enforcement is the part they're missing, which is why homelessness is growing everywhere. It's easy to solve, but you're going to have to make some tough. Oh, you said his name is. Someone said my name's Colt Boy, and his name is literally Colt Boy. Okay, I didn't know he was talking to you. I thought he was calling me Colt Boy, but there's an actual Colt Boy. Someone said then when you bring up the issue, you're a bigot. Well, because no one wants to face the tough problems. And honestly, out of his whole rant and stuff, my favorite part, I think, of the whole beginning one that everyone didn't listen to was he was explaining and he pushed it far and they're like, you shouldn't have said that. He's like, I understand that, but why is it okay for executives of your ethnic group to, and honestly, to be fair, rappers of Ye's ethnic group and other ethnic groups, why is it okay to pump out this music about drugs and murder and violence that's brainwashing the youth into self-sabotage? Why is it okay for your group to profit off the death of my people, but I can't say this? There's double standards in this world, and it's because liberals and others have normalized death, violence, and gang violence. Oh, that's normal. That's fine. That's cultural. If that's cultural, people are going to keep failing. You got to switch that culture. And don't tell me that kids aren't listening to it. I've been to areas in New York that people don't want to walk to. There's a lot of good kids there. And honestly, a lot of the kids don't have parents. And honestly, a lot of the kids listen to rap music. So the ones that have good mothers, like say LeBron James could have easily ended up dead or in jail with his life, but he had a great mother, right? His great mother took care of him and made sure he got the attention he needed for being such a beast of an athlete. He's one of the best basketball players of all time. But he loves his mother because without his mother, he could have been somewhere else, which is awesome. I'm so glad he had a good mother. But for the people that don't have that, then they lean on the culture. Then they lean on the music they're listening to. And the music they're listening to is telling them to pretty much end up dead or in jail. So you got to understand that if that doesn't get nipped in the bud, all this is going to continue no matter how many cops you get rid of, because the cops are not the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 issue. The Justice Department's corrupt. What they did with Epstein is crazy. I'm not defending the police state, but as far as on the ground cops in high crime cities, sorry, they're not a top 10 problem. And pretending like they are is just being politically correct and leaning into, in my view, liberal culture, which is getting away from where the accountability lies and how people need to get over this. Someone said, I thought you were a Christian anomaly. Jesus was homeless. I mean, if you want to be a drifter, there's been drifters before, but you have to provide value and not be totally disgusting and annoying and no one cares. But these squatters that are just crapping everywhere and destroying cities, you want to be a drifter, be a drifter. I know somebody that acts like that. He's a good person. He provides value, and he's been basically drifting for 40 years. He's a reggae artist, and he has a house, I think. But, essentially it's he's such a good person, and he provides value everywhere he goes. So people take him in, people give him money. If you're just a net negative and just crapping everywhere and just sitting on the street, it's dude, someone's got to correct that. You can't just ruin. Unless you want to live in Los Angeles and be no, this is better. This is better than correcting that person. Just living in filth and degeneracy and violence and chaos. That's ideal. Not correcting this problem. All power. And some people say like, well, this and that. I've lived in bad neighborhoods. I've taken a bus. Honestly, I've taken buses and trains. I used to walk through, I don't know if you guys know MacArthur Park. It started getting a lot worse, but I used to walk through MacArthur Park every single day. I mean, it's not really a safe place anymore. It's whatever, but it's like a Spanish hood in LA. I worked there every day, took 3 buses, stood next to gang members at the train every day. I've lived that life. I'm not saying I'm the toughest person ever. I grew up there, but I did live in the city for a long time. I lived and worked in unfavorable areas or areas that weren't super safe. I've seen it. It's not somewhere that I want to live forever. And I think a lot of people don't want to live there forever. But I'm not being a hypocrite like, oh, this, it's like, I don't want to live there. I don't want that. And I would rather fix it than act like it's not a problem or live around people who agree with me. Like when liberals in LA are like, I disagree with you. Cool. I don't care. I've seen how your view works. I'm not interested. Like, I don't mind that we disagree because if you stay there, that's great. I think you deserve to be there and you can live that way and, act like it's normal and, tell yourself that that's fun, but it's not. And everyone knows it. So keep destroying your city and playing the political correct card and, turning your city into hell. That's fine. I found a place that I like with people that aren't as stupid and, it works. So someone said it starts with the individual and hopefully their family, neighborhood, and absolutely it does. But it's a culture, and the problem I believe is certain people in this country get absolutely babied. I said the same thing, and I don't need to be babied either. But like when it comes to certain Jewish stuff, yes, people could stop being so hateful, and they don't need to blame everybody. Like I'm down with stopping the tension and hate, but I believe that self accountability and self awareness needs to happen in the Jewish community. If you have the World Jewish Congress and the ADL doing all this stuff, but they don't often go after their own stuff that they're doing wrong, it makes people feel a little weirded out. So it doesn't mean people couldn't be nicer and better, but when you have thousands of special interest groups in the name of your race, but you say it doesn't exist and it's just individuals and you're passing speech laws, it gets weird. It's like, yeah, people could be better, but also, did you ever think maybe you guys could do a better job too? Or no, it's everyone else's fault. You're the perpetual victim and no one, no, just keep blaming everyone else. And the tension's rising, but it's not you. Like, at a certain point, it's nice to be like, hey, I'm not making excuses for the worst of the worst, but like at a certain point, you do need to self-reflect and see what you're doing wrong. And in high crime neighborhoods, that's the number one issue. It's like, yes, there's other things, but people they need to admit that that's a bad way to live. And most rappers won't do that. If you do that as a rapper and speak the truth, they blacklist you and say you're acting white. That's what they do. Oh, that he sounds like he's for saying that the culture is toxic. Listen to Ye's interviews for the last 3 years, even before he started talking about Jewish stuff. He's been telling people this for years, and he got blacklisted before, the Jewish stuff. He got basically outcasted from the rap world for leaning conservative. So it's that problem. The culture in the community rejects the truth. The culture in the community rejects self-accountability, and they prop up a bunch of charlatans and fake activists who tell them that it's a good idea to just keep doing what they're doing and play the victim. It's not. I mean, we could do this for the next 400 years and act like it is, but it's not going to solve it. And that's how I feel. Libertarianism's not going to solve it. Liberalism's not going to solve it. The only thing I believe that'll make the community slightly better would be really tough policing. Unfortunately, that's what I think. Like, it shouldn't be that way, but when people act that way and don't listen, like, I mean, either it just keeps going to shit, or eventually someone with morality and some comes in and says like, all right, we're going to make criminals feel less comfortable than kids walking to school. Someone said, I really hope Ye becomes president. I mean, that would be definitely wild. Let's see. Someone said Jesus spent most of his adult life doing carpentry. And that's fine. Someone said authoritarian militarized police bootlicker. All right, then go to the south side of Chicago with a book of Ron Paul and tell me how it works. Okay, I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, but like, yeah, bro, you could really stop crime in New Orleans. Just bring your Ron Paul book and let them know about your ideas and philosophy. That'll shift it for sure. I mean, have you ever been to these neighborhoods where things are bad? Like, it's not a Ron Paul like Dave Smith hangout. I'm not trying to be rude, but like I don't care that you disagree with me. I'm just saying go there and bring your moral ideas of anti-police rhetoric. Yeah, you're going to be like the new, Louis Farrakhan. Everyone's going to line up behind you and you're going to save the world. Like, sorry, it's not going to work that way. Like, it's just not. So you could lie to yourself. You could find people that agree with you, but it doesn't work. It's not going to work. That's my view. Someone said in Ohio, if you're homeless in a day, you have time to keep walking or jail. I mean, it's easy to solve homelessness. You just have to make it like you can't do that. In LA, you can literally just like shit on a public. They don't even do anything. I've seen some guy like the flesh is rotting off his skin. He's just like, just harassing people, and it's like just like laying down on things. Like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Free will. Yeah, he's free to just destroy the city, but you're not even free to go to, Chick-fil-A without the risk of getting machete attacked. Cool. Someone said Anomaly is the goat of passive-aggressive backhanded compliments. I'm not even trying to be passive-aggressive. I'm just trying to be like humorous about it. I'm not mad or upset. I'm not like angry. It's just like it doesn't work. That's why I want to send liberals and libertarians to these high crime neighborhoods. I want to see how your philosophy works. Tell them how much you hate the police with them. Go to all the corner stores, walk around at night, pass out Ron Paul books. I'm sure it'll work. And then tell everybody that you need less police presence and get rid of the police and see how long you last. Let's see. Someone said culture has way more influence over people than government. I hear you. Someone said people can't take your honesty. It's fine. I mean, I ticked off a whole segment of an entire political party today, so I understand it's going to be unpopular. Here's the like thing though. I don't dislike libertarians. I like Dave Smith and the Mises Caucus, and I agree with them on like 95% of stuff. And I would say that I literally think libertarians are more right about a lot of issues than even Republicans, because Republicans are like a quasi fake co-opted Christian party that's not even Christian. They're working for a foreign country that doesn't even believe in Christ. But in general, the Republican Party is a fake Christian party that serves a foreign country that does socialism, and they stand on stage and say capitalism's awesome. I like libertarians more than Republicans. I think they're more right than Republicans. I think libertarians are right about most domestic issues when it comes to like finances and stuff. So I'm not like a libertarian hater. It's just on the police thing. They're always posting out of context videos of police hitting people that usually provoked it and just wouldn't walk away and leave and walk towards police or wave their hands at a police officer. Like, it's just corny. Like, it's like, yeah, we're relatable to the liberals. Like, yeah, but you're wrong. So it doesn't matter. Someone said Ron Paul was everything the establishment hated. Ron Paul's a legend. We would be a better country with more libertarians in office. I mean, libertarians would do better than a lot of Republicans in most issues. I'm not opposed to it. It's just like the police and I think, and this is where I think I've kind of nailed why I disagree with it as well. And this is with the Kanye stuff of, oh, groups don't matter, individuals matter. And a lot of people like to say, oh, tribalism sucks, tribalism sucks. I actually don't even agree with that. Everybody has a tribe. It's your favorite sports team. It's your if you say, I don't have a tribe, your tribe is other people that don't have a tribe. Like, that's your tribe. Everybody has, what do you want to live alone forever? Everybody has some sort of group. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's a religion, whether it's a political party, whether it's a sports team, whether it's a, hobby, everybody has a tribe. Tribes are good. It's healthy to have groups of people that can look out for each other and agree on stuff. A family is a great tribe. A mother and a father is a great tribe. So, I'm not against tribalism because I think everybody picks a tribe. It's just when you fight over dumb stuff and let the bankers scam you, then yeah, tribalism sucks when your tribe's stupid. But I don't think necessarily having a tribe is bad. I fundamentally disagree with that. And also, I disagree with this idea that everybody's just individuals and there is no like talking about patterns and stuff. This is something liberals do, conservatives do, and libertarians do. And I disagree with everybody, where it's like, you can't talk about Jewish stuff because that's anti-Semitic and everybody's like an individual. That's not even true at all. I'm not blaming all people of that group, but I've used this example before and it puts the message home. If 10 million Christians moved to your country and your country went from like a sodomy, like abortion country to a country that was like overturning gay marriage and all of a sudden was outlawing abortion, was that the individuals who did that? Oh, it just so happened that there were 10 million individuals who were Christian that came to our country and it turned into a Christian country. It's not, yeah, they're individuals. Judge them all equally, but that is called Christian influence of Christians turning the country Christian. That's what that is. Okay. It's not anti-Christian to say that a group of Christians did that. It's reality. So if you have a country that's Christian and you allow mass immigration, you could say, well, race doesn't matter. It's like, yeah, on a personal scale, it absolutely doesn't matter. But on a, if you let in 20 million people to Texas that are Mexican, and it used to be this, it's like it's going to turn into Mexico. That's not hating Mexico. I love Mexico. I'm just saying, like, that's just the demographic shift of reality. If you let, people from, let's just say, Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia takes over 70% of America and Saudis move there to the 70 percentile, it's going to turn into Sharia law. They're going to start pushing their religion into, it doesn't make you racist or anti whatever noticing that. So the libertarians and the fake Republicans and a lot of liberals, they try to play this game of like, don't talk about groups, talk about individuals. It's fundamentally just dishonest to the entire reality of what's going on. So that's why libertarians fundamentally don't understand what's going on in these neighborhoods, is because they don't see anything as racial groups or any sort. There's no sort of culture going on there that should be corrected. They're all just individuals that are victims of the police. That's not what's going on. Sorry. There's Dearborn, Michigan is basically like a smaller version of the Middle East now, because a lot of Middle Eastern people moved there to the point where they've imported their culture to Dearborn, Michigan. That's just a fact. I mean, there's a lot of great food in Dearborn, Michigan, but it's now a Muslim area to the delight of Muslims and to the non-delight of broad people who don't like them. But that's just reality. So libertarianism and fake republic, there is no such thing as tribalism. Groups don't exist. It's all individuals. Like, have fun losing every reality thought process in the next 30 years, because you can't fundamentally understand the difference between hating somebody because of their ethnic group and understanding that there are differences in religion and ethnic groups and philosophies. When you talk about certain stuff that Jewish things are doing, it's like, it's not all people, but what is Jewish culture? I mean, is it nothing? If it's nothing, then what's the point of even being Jewish? It's like, there's something, right? Like, what is being a Muslim? It's nothing. It's nothing. It's not nothing. It's something. What is it? What's being a Christian? What is being an American? It's got to mean something. But so if a bunch of people run a bunch of companies that are this group, but it doesn't mean anything, it's just a fake lie. It doesn't mean everyone's on the same page there's a lot of terrible Christian pastors and total con artist scammers that probably work for Satan and are just deceiving people. But like, doesn't mean all Christians are doing that, but there is patterns in this world. Like, now they're trying to make this sort of narrative, and it's becoming popular on the right wing as well, that pattern recognition is bad. Pattern recognition. I mean, you can't say that or else it looks bad. It's like, it's just the reality of the situation. Like, if you have certain groups of people that have certain ideologies in certain areas, the things will change. Just like, oh, my liberal kids will grow up. Like, no, they won't. They just took over Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. And now, instead of growing up, they just turned the whole world into liberal rainbow world because they didn't grow up and they took everything. Are they just individuals? Well, yes, but they have a certain ideology. Their new religion is climate change, loving vaccines. Like, they've created a new religion. They've overturned Christianity with fake scientism, fake environmentalism, and fake liberalism and fake peace, love, and prosperity when they're some of the most hateful people in the world. I don't have hate in my heart, but this is why I don't agree with a lot of people. Oh, there's no groups. It's like, oh yeah, you can't change the South Side of Chicago. I'm not saying it's unchangeable, but you got to get to the root of it. And the root of it is not cops. It's not. It's the culture. It's the mindset. And I believe that the people in that area can get better. I don't look at them like, oh, they have no chance. Absolutely, they have a chance. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of potential. There's a lot of great people. All they need sometimes is somebody to come in and be the father figure, literally, instead of all these libertarians make excuses for them, liberals make excuses for them, Republicans give them like platinum plans and certain things. Like, that's nice. When Republicans, like, not trying to be a dick. I need to put that on a shirt or something because I say that 10 times a stream, I realize. But when Trump talks to like black conservatives, he talks to them like they're like tokens. Like he's just like, I did the platinum. Like even Ye was like, dude, he talked to me like, I did this, I did that, I did prison reform. Like, yeah, okay, like I get it, I understand, but like that's what it means to be black now. Is like if you're black, you need to like prison reform. Like, is that are there not millions of black people in America who don't care? I mean, some do, but it's like, what does it even mean? Like people have, in my view, bigotry of low expectations where it's like, yeah, you can't possibly do better in that city because you're poor and you need government or you need libertarianism and you need less cops. And it's like, none of those will work. It needs to come from the root up. So, I disagree that tribalism is inherently bad. And I disagree that it's hateful to talk about groups over individuals. And I think, not bragging, but I think I checkmated every Republican. I don't think there's a single Republican out there who could beat me on this debate because it's like, oh, if a bunch of Christians moved to Saudi Arabia and it turned into Christians, wouldn't you say Christians moved there and turned it into a Christian country? Well, yeah. Why? That's a group because the group has influence. Oh, but Jewish people don't have influence, and black people don't have influence, or Muslims don't have influence, or lesbians don't. I'm not saying like lesbians are taking over the world. It's just like, you get what I'm saying? This fundamental concept of reality, I'm crushing everybody in the Republican movement on because they're all fake, they're all politically correct, and they all want to just seem like trendy. And it's like, it's just stupid. You'd have no problem saying the Christians turned Saudi Arabia Christian if enough Christians moved there, gained influence in media and banking, and shifted the culture, because that's what happens. But I'm supposed to believe that no one else has a culture? There is no black culture? Of course there's a black culture. It's on television. It's in rap music. I'm not saying it's everything. It's more complex than that. But there's black media, black culture. Not all black people, or not everyone doesn't agree with it. There's jazz, there's Ray Charles. But I'm just saying, if you listen to most black entertainers, I'm a rapper myself, but all I did was watch rap entertainment for the first like 15 years, from like 18 to like 30. All I did was and they always say black media, black culture, black media. I'm not saying it. They're saying it. Like, this is ours. This is what we do. Okay. So what do I say if I have an issue with what's going on? There's a lot of great stuff going out of it. Kendrick Lamar is a genius. Ye is a genius. There's hundreds of artists that are amazing. Even the ones that are degenerate are still talented. But how do you challenge the culture? They say black media, black culture. Okay. Well, what if I said, I think that this media and this culture, although there's a lot of good things, are also kind of poisoning the minds of the youth, and I'm going to these cities and they're listening to your music and it's not having a great influence? Well, it's not all your fault. What if we said we should shift this culture? Then you're racist, so it's like the same thing with the Jewish stuff. Like, people have all these organizations and groups and ideologies, but it doesn't exist. Nothing exists. It's like, of course everything exists. It's not everyone's fault. I don't blame everyone. But you can't play this game of something exists to push your agenda forward, but when you challenge that agenda, it doesn't exist anymore. It's fake. And a lot of people play into that, and they don't want to address these issues. They think that everything's individuals. It's not. The world is run by groups. The World Economic Forum is not an individual. It's a group. There's individuals in the group. The Bilderberg Group is a group. The group is in the name. Jewish group, Christian group, Muslim group, Libertarian group, Republican group, Democrat group, New York Giants group, black group, white group. You get what I'm saying? Everything's grouped. It doesn't mean all libertarian, not all libertarian. You could call me a libertarian if you want. I mean, you don't have to, but it's like I can't talk about groups. Should I specify? I try. Not all. It's just such a fake world we live in, and nobody wants to address these issues. Can I say like rural white people are, dying of pills too much, or no? Do I have to not all white people in rural areas, not all white people. I'm not saying all, but it's like, if I love white people in rural areas and I want them to do well, can I not try to stop the overdose crisis that's going on? Like, white people are dying in crazy amounts from fentanyl and opioids. Like, that's one of the biggest killers, if not the biggest killer, among youth, especially in the white community, but also in other communities. Can I say that? No? Does that mean I mean everyone? Like, I mean, how am I even supposed to talk if I can't use words and groups? I'm not bragging, but I KO and I checkmate every Republican influencer on this. Unless they agree with me, which a lot of people do, anyone who disagrees, I'm winning that debate so hard, it's not even funny, because they're not critically thinking. Someone said heroin and Fetty is really bad. I know. I lived in West Virginia for like 5 years. Actually, I went to school there. I dropped out and then I went back there. The whole state is basically run by, I forget the name, but there's some pharmaceutical company that sponsors everything. It's like coal mines and pharma drugs. So that's where the money is. There's the university, the coal mines. If you want to just go get money real quick, you go to coal mines. And the pharmacy company, I forget the name of it, but I think they had the name of the stadium. It's like big pharma runs not just a lot of the country, but West Virginia. Someone said it's the biggest killer and has been for sure. I'm gonna read some comments. I got some energy today. Let's see. Someone said and alcohol for sure. Alcohol too. You mean all alcohol? I drink alcohol. I drink alcohol sometimes. Are you saying me? I'm fine. Like, do you get what I'm saying? When people act this way to me, I'm like, I'm not saying everyone drinking alcohol, but me? I drink alcohol. What are you trying to say? I'm gonna I do push-ups. It's like, stop. Someone said your feed is choppy. I don't know what to tell you. Someone said I'm a recovering addict. I've been off the oxy 6 years. Congrats. It's an issue. I'm not knocking anybody that's been a part of it. It's just like, let's stop it. That's not, everybody knows somebody that has had issues with it. At one point in my life, I did as well. Not like terrible, but it could have been. I could have easily overdosed when I was in high school. Just like being stupid. Someone said the Sackler family. Well, I know they have a lot of power, but that's not. There's a certain name in West Virginia that they put their name on everything. It's not the Sacklers, but I forget. Someone said, should America be Christian despite being formed for religious freedom? Well, here's the thing. When it was formed, I don't know if the founders were like Freemasons or Jesuits or Sodomites or Christians. I don't really know. Everybody has everybody has their own opinion, but in general, most of America was Christian for the first couple 100 years, and you could tell a lot of their rhetoric was inspired by the Bible. So, when America was more Christian, there's flaws. I'm not saying it was perfect, but the less Christian it gets and the more LGBT and rainbow flag and liberal it gets, it's like the crappier the cities have gotten. I understand there's been crime in the past and it's not always been perfect, but that's up to Christians to convince people to get back to biblical principles, because I don't think it's just going to become Christian if people aren't Christian. So the only way for it to ever become Christian again is for people to be Christian, and pastors to be convincing and not just like buy private jets and scam everybody. So, there's a long way to go on that, but I think when they had the word marriage, I don't know if marriage originated in the Bible or precedes that. I'm not really sure on the history, but marriage meant between a man and a woman. And every dictionary and every person and every Freemason and other groups, that weren't Christian or whatever, they all adapted that terminology too. It wasn't until 10 or 15 years ago. So I would like to go back in that direction, but I don't think it's enforceable unless people believe in it. Let me see. It's never going to go back to biblical principles. Thank God. Listen to your heart. Wow. I'm not going to thank God and get away from the Bible in the same sentence personally, but it's like, I don't know. I think freedom and discipline need to be balanced. And right now, there's not enough discipline. So I don't know that things were so much worse when people actually valued marriage and didn't have all sex out of wedlock. Like, I don't think that makes people happy. I don't think that brings families together. I don't think that raises the next generation in the right situation. So some people think, yeah, I'm free. I can do this and that. And it's like, yeah, I get it, but personally, I think it would be better if enough people went by, and it's already starting to happen. As the left gets more degenerate, more people are coming back to Christ, more people are coming back to traditionalism, more people are thinking it's cool to just be a trad wife, to not just be WHO, what. Like, I'm not knocking people, I'm just saying that trend is already starting to happen, because as the left gets more insane and wicked, more people are like, oh, that's not cool. You know how many women thought it was cool to just bang a bunch of guys on birth control, and then they hit their late 20s or early 30s and they're like, oh, actually, that's not cool. Actually, that's unhealthy for me. Like, people wake up naturally anyway. So people can reject biblical principles, in my opinion, and basic common sense and basic science. And, you could reject it. Like, you're free to do whatever. Like, I have free will. I could do that, but there's no reason to do it. Like, I like that I have the option to do this and this, but I don't want to do everything at once. Like, discipline makes a great man. I'm not perfect, but like, I could do that, or I could do this, but like, you don't have to. So I think the more people try to break away from natural rules and natural order, they're going to be miserable. In my view, it's like, yeah, I don't want a husband. I want to be this. And like, I'm not saying you have to, and I'm not saying it's the only way to happiness, but I think reality kicks in one way or the other. It's the same thing with eating unhealthy. It's like, you can eat unhealthy. You can not work out. You could gain 500 pounds. You're free to do that. But if you're literally 500 pounds, like, reality's going to set in, and it's not going to be so fun at a certain point unless you just have a blast and sit there. I don't know. But that's how I feel. Like, I've listened open-minded for the last 2, 3 years, 4 years, and I'm waiting for someone to convince me away from what I'm saying. And I've heard all the arguments on the further right about why not to be a Christian from intellectuals like Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris, and then from libertarians and anarchists and atheists and agnostic. I've heard it. I've been an atheist at one point. I've been agnostic. I've been spiritual. I've done those things. So I know what it's like, because I've been there in my 20s. But since I've gotten wiser and more thoughtful and more researched, and I've lived longer and I have life experience, I'm a Christian, and I'm waiting. People can convince me, but the people that always try to convince me away from it are not convincing me at this point, because I do believe at this point all the evidence is pointed towards there's a reason these things were written. There's a reason people used to follow it, and the further away you get from it, the less happy you're going to be. So I when I was in my 20s, I'm not saying I was like the biggest heartthrob or anything, but I never had a problem getting women. I rapped at 19, 18, or however old I was when I started rapping. I had 1 million views on YouTube. So just being honest, I had women throwing themselves at me since I was 19. Just being like, I like you, this and that. And it's not like I had everything, but I wasn't struggling. But I used to think it was cool. Like, oh, I want to go out and hook up and this and that. I want to do this. And like, now I'm in my 30s. I realized late 20s, early 30s, like, that's not cool. It's not cool to think you got a chick pregnant. I mean, the scariest part of my life was when I thought I got a chick pregnant, or something happened, or I caught this. I never caught an STD, thank God. I never got a chick pregnant, thank God. But those were the scariest times in my 20s. The worst times, the most depressed I've ever been, besides getting injured, was when I thought I had a kid out of wedlock, or I thought some chick gave me something, and thank God it didn't happen. But I scared the crap out of myself just because I got so nervous when you do the wrong thing, because that's God, in my opinion, in my mind, telling me, like, you shouldn't do that. That's not fun. It's not, being promiscuous isn't sustainable. This isn't like fulfilling. It's not as fulfilling as a good relationship. So now I'm at the point, I have more options than I probably ever had. If I wanted to, I could do a lot of things, more than I ever could have, but I don't want to, because I realized that's not where I derive my happiness from, and it's not thrilling. So, it's like, the free will to do what you want is great, but the discipline to do the right thing is what makes you more happy and more fulfilled. Same with work. I could slack off a lot more, but I don't want to, because it's fulfilling to do a good job, or try to do a good job. So, I understand the concept of having free will, but it's discipline, in my opinion, and a lot of principles that are derived from the Bible that provide happiness and peace and sustainability. But, someone said, what is a woman? I have no idea. It could be anything: a tree, a light bulb. Someone said, do morals stem from religion? Well, here's my thing. I think, personally, I've always thought growing up that it didn't, and you didn't need religion to be moral. And to be honest, I do think there are people who are moral in this day and age, millions of them, who don't follow religion but are good people. But what I found is, eventually, people that don't have it end up straying. And I'm not saying everybody who follows it's great. There's a lot of degenerates who like do really messed up stuff under the guise of religions all over the place. I'm not saying good or bad, but I personally think if you stray from it, you're going to end up worshiping something. Everybody has a God. Everybody has a religion. Some people, the libertarian, who I'm guessing was not Christian, and I'm not, once again, I'm not saying all libertarians aren't Christian. I'm just saying this one. He was like, I basically made the argument that capitalism, libertarianism, and socialism, they all don't work unless there's a moral society. I don't care how righteous your system is, with immoral people, it doesn't work. You need moral people the same way you need good workers. If your workers are not going out to work, your company's not going to run. That's what I said. And it wasn't a shot at libertarianism. It was a shot at pretty much morality in this country. I said, no system works. And he said, oh, it has to work. It's libertarianism. It works. It'll make people moral. So what I found from that is that's his religion. He might not be Christian or Muslim or Jewish or whatever, but his religion's libertarianism. He thinks libertarianism would solve everything. Some people have made their religion big pharma. Some people have made their religion climate change. They're so religious that they're going jihad for climate change. I mean, they've gone crazier than like radical Muslims, like the jihadist, like white, liberals are just like running around and like just throwing stuff on paintings, like their religion, they're jihading for their climate change religion. Like they're going full jihad. And that's haram, as the Muslims say. That's haram. Stop destroying Van Gogh paintings because you're a psychopath who got brainwashed by your progressive Marxist teacher. But everyone leans into something. Well, I'm not tribal. You have a tribe. Your tribe is not being tribal. Your tribe is libertarians. So, I don't think you're immoral if you don't have a religion. There's a lot of moral people who don't. But at the end of the day, I do think that those who stray from God will eventually be lost, and rejecting some sort of truth that will hinder their process. But that's not to say if you follow it, you're perfect and your process is going to be great. Life is crazy. It's crazy for everybody, whether you're religious or not. So someone said you're a genius on a super chat. Well, thank you, Monster. I agree. No, I'm just kidding, but thank you. Anomaly, can you recount the time in your media career when you were offered a deal to compromise? That's actually a great question. Let me, I haven't really thought about it recently, but let me start with YouTube rapping. So I started rapping and I got 1 million views. I had people who had an eye on me, and I can't think of the specific label. I don't know if it was like Sony or like one of those major ones. Basically, they had a meeting with me at one point and they were like interested in working, but they didn't really believe in me. And I don't know. What I didn't like in that deal, and there was another one, I think it was like Orchard Music or something. So the guy was trying to set me up with that, but it wasn't through them. He was trying to do a side thing. So it wasn't Orchard Music, but he had a meeting with me. I can't remember because I met with a few people, but the first thing I ever turned down was a contract, because the contract said I only own 15% of my music. They were trying to own between the guy who was trying to be my manager was trying to be my manager and my record label and do some sort of deal through another label. And they were trying to give me 15% of my own music. And even though I was young, I didn't know law. I was like 21, maybe. I don't even know. I was smart enough to know there's no way in hell I'm only going to own 15% of my own music. So I said no, and they stopped talking to me. One thing that I always noticed is no one ever believed in me enough to actually work with me. Every time I say no to something, they go ghost and they're not interested anymore. So it's like if people can't scam me or they can't get a good deal out of it, all of a sudden they're gone. So anyway, then I got a meeting with Baby Grand Records. If you guys know Baby Grand Records or Baby Grande, I don't know how you say it. They were the indie label with Jedi Mind Tricks, Cannabis, like a lot of underground rappers went through them. And I emailed them. I was always sending out emails. I was always a hustler. And they said, yeah, well, you have a pretty big following. Like, we'll take a meeting with you. And they paid for my flight to New York. I was in LA and I'm pumped. You got to understand, I always wanted to be an underground rapper. I never wanted to be like Justin Bieber. What I cared about was underground rap. And the biggest, or one of the biggest underground labels, wanted to fly me to New York City. So I'm thrilled. This is like better than Sony in my opinion, because I'm like, oh, they're going to believe in me and they're going to understand what I'm doing. Because I always was like a political conspiracy rapper. I'm not rapping about nothing. I'm rapping about Bin Laden and the CIA. I mean, like, I'm talking about all this sort of stuff, like in my old raps. So anyway, they fly me to New York City, and I don't know if it's like an A&R. He meets me and he says, hey, you're cool, but like, don't talk about politics. Don't talk about this, something like just talk about women and drugs, or like literally told me that to my face. I don't remember the exact conversation, but he literally said, don't rap about politics. Just rap about like women and weed, like no politics. And I wasn't even that political, but like I did talk about current events. I actually big up Ron Paul. I said I liked Ron Paul in a song. I didn't even know he was libertarian or conservative. I just knew he was authentic. You know, I could tell that. And that was an indie label. This, guys, Jedi Mind Tricks is one of the most like indie, like they're rapping about politics. This indie label is basically like, we don't want to work with you if you don't stop rapping about politics. I was like, and then they weren't even that interested, so we never talked again. Then with the news stuff, I don't really know if anybody ever told me not to say stuff, but they just kind of blacklisted me. I mean, that was my music career. A lot of people did me dirty and just did weird stuff. That's fine. With the politics stuff, I want to say no one's really ever directly told me not to say. I mean, that's not true. I guess some people have like, don't say that, or I'm not like, just like hinted like, if you say that, we can't be friends, like stupid stuff like that. But you think I cared? That was like nothing. But like I've told people a bunch of times, people have hit me up and said, hey, they're talking about you at like Blaze or like, one of these organizations. I can't even remember, but like they're saying you're too far right. They're like, so these people didn't like to my face say, hey, we want to work with you or else you can do this. They're basically like, we don't want to work with you. We want to bury you. We want to act like you don't exist. And we want everybody at our organization to know that like you're no good. And I'm not saying they've like completely blacklisted me. I've been on Candace's own show on Daily Wire. I've been on Drew Hernandez's show on TPUSA. I've probably been on a Blaze show at one point when Elijah was there or someone. So I'm not saying they completely blacklisted me. I've been on all of those on certain segments, but there was just talk going around basically like, it's the same thing if you interview Nick Fuentes. It's like if you interview Nick Fuentes, like you might lose your job. So I never got like offered a deal where it was like, you got to do this and not say this. It was more just like crappy deals and like just bad business. And I'm like, no, you got to change that. And then they're like, oh, we're not interested. Everybody always wants to like scam me or sign something weird. One deal, I'm not going to say who it was with, but I almost did a deal with a company that does like a Patreon style thing. And we had a whole deal, but in the deal, I did this without a lawyer. I read it myself and it said basically they can change the rules and the terms of service at any point and they can terminate my contract if I go against the terms of service. So I pointed that out to him. I said, hey, a lot of stuff in this deal is cool. I'm interested in signing it, but what I don't like is that it says you can change the terms of service at any point. And if I ever violate the terms of service, you could terminate the agreement. So technically, because of the way you wrote it, if I signed it, you could change the terms of service in 3 months and then say I violated the new terms of service that you changed it to. It was worded in that way. And once I said that, all of a sudden they stopped talking to me. So it's like everybody always wants to scam me or they just want me to sign things without reading it. And this is why, unpopular opinion, I don't feel that bad for musicians who sign all this stuff like Taylor Swift. Oh, the Soroses have my music, or she was complaining about someone owned her music. And Scooter Braun has my music. It's like, you sold it. Like they can't just buy your music. People can't just steal your music. It's like you sold your music. You're Taylor Swift. You just had 10 number ones. So you just broke records. You have hundreds of millions of dollars. And yeah, you don't own your music because you sold it. So boo-hoo. I don't care if Soros or freaking Scooter Braun owns it. Like Soros doesn't own my music because I never sold it to him or I never sold it to someone who sold it to him. So I actually don't even care about all these artists. I understand Ye wants to change the contracts, but it's like, no one told you had to sign. I didn't sign it. I took the hard road and now I get banned from social media, banned from TikTok. Like that's what happens when you don't take the deal with the devil. Like you take the deal, you make hundreds of millions of dollars, you get famous, you get rich, you go to all the award shows, you start companies, but now all of a sudden you're a big victim and everybody in the music industry is like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, the contract should be better. The people at the top are scamming everyone. I'm not saying I agree with it and they could be nicer, but like Taylor Swift is a victim. Oh, she doesn't own her music. Don't sell it, lady. That's what like Neil Young sold his music to like Hypnosis Records or whatever. And he got $100 million or something to sell it. You get money for selling your stuff. You don't just sell it and get nothing. So I own 100% of my royalties, 100% of my music, 100% of my publishing, 100% of my Facebook, 100% of my YouTube, 100% of my Patreon. I own everything. No one owns a single thing of mine except for producers that I split the revenue with when they produce my song, which is standard. I own 100% of everything because I never sold it. So I don't feel bad for artists that sell it, make money, and then cry like they want to own their music. They don't sell it. They can't just steal it. You have to sign that away. If you don't want to read the contract. But this is what they do to artists. I think what Ye is saying is valid, and what they're saying is like every contract I've ever had, I think it's been like 3 now, they basically give me a crappy contract. I read it without a lawyer. I just read what the words say, and it's pretty standard. And I say, hey, I like most of it, but I don't like this. And the second I say I don't like this, they don't want to sign me. They don't want to do the deal every single time. So maybe that's how they work. They wait for someone stupid to sign it. They sign it, and then they cash out on you. But is that not your responsibility to read it? You know, I did. I didn't have a lawyer. I didn't have the money for it. Nobody in my family helped me. I know English, and I just read the whole thing and, you know, thought about it and said, no, I don't. But they try to also pressure you into doing it. What people used to do was say, well, you know, you're not that special. You know, we can get another kid. Like, this person's better than you. They try to bully you into signing the contract. Luckily, I always like had confidence, you know, even when I didn't have like as much confidence, I still believed in myself. Because if you don't have confidence, man, they bully you. Like, oh, you're not going to sign this. Like, they don't try to work with you. They're like, treat you like garbage. Like, oh, what are you doing? Who do you think you are? Like, we could sign another kid and make them famous. Like, we're doing you a favor. They try to bully you into signing some dookie contract. And even when I was 19, I'm like, dude, don't talk to me like that. Listen, I might have been a little cocky, but I'm like, I'm a star. Like, don't talk. I'm not this other guy. Like, I'm gonna make it either way. I don't need you. I don't care what you think. Like, I always had a stubborn attitude. Thank God, because if I wasn't so stubborn, they would have scammed me, and I wouldn't be here. So I was always like, don't talk to me that way. Who do you think you are? I'm like, who do you think you are? I told one guy on the phone one time. I said, you know, you're not the only A&R in the world. Like, you're saying, oh, there's a lot of rappers. There's a lot of A&Rs too. And you'll see me, you know, look on the television, look on your cell phone. You'll see my face again. I'm not going anywhere. You say there's a bunch of rappers. I say there's a bunch of A&Rs. I think I'm more unique than you, and I think I'll go further than you. And who's that A&R now? Nobody knows. Nobody cares. You know, he probably doesn't even have his job anymore. So, you know, I would always be like, yeah, we'll see. And I proved everyone right or wrong, and I was right. So whatever. Someone said, let's read some comments. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. Yeah, I haven't gone down that rabbit hole in a while, but it's true. Someone said Crowder sold masks and took PPP loans. I would not be shocked at that. Would not be shocked at all. Let me see. Someone said selling your soul is the worst thing ever. You could tell them to take a hike. Well, I never wanted to be famous. Like, you know, a lot of people get into like, oh, I want women. I want to be famous. I want clothes. I always thought that was stupid. When I was 19, I liked underground music. I liked Atmosphere. I liked Jedi Mind Tricks. I liked J Live. Like, I liked a bunch of like backpack lyricists. I always liked the lyrics and the poetry. So like they couldn't use material things to lure me in because I didn't care about that. Even at 20, I didn't care about clothes. I didn't care about cars. That meant nothing to me. Even back, I had a strong soul, even when I was younger. So it's like dangling all these things in front of my face. And I'm like, I never wanted to be that anyway. The meeting I was most excited for was Baby Grand Records, and they ended up not even treating me right. But it's like, oh, we're going to do all these things. I don't want to do those anyway. I want to, you know, talk about real stuff. That's what I want. You can't dangle things in front of my face and make me like want to do it. Like, I was never that stupid, honestly. What do I think? Someone said Atmosphere, Sage Francis. Yeah, that exactly. That's the type of stuff I like. Black Alicious, exactly. That was my jam when I was younger. So I wanted to be more like Atmosphere than like, you know, Drake. So like if they're like, we could make you the next Drake, I'm like, I don't want it. That's not what I wanted. Immortal Technique is pretty cool. Agreed. Someone said I used to like JLP and Crowder. Now I see their puppets and they use Trump to love to make money. I like Jesse Lee Peterson, but his Israel post was a little suspect. I don't care. Like with Jesse's thing, I don't care that he was in Israel. It's fun to visit. I get it. But like he was like, you're not a Christian if you don't visit Israel. It's like, bro, that's like blasphemous. Like, you know, Don't say that. Say you had a great time in Israel and you love the Jewish people and you had a blast. That's fine. Have a blast, but don't tell Christians they're not Christian and they're not getting into heaven if they don't go to Israel. Like that's like satanic. Like Jesse's of his father the devil when he says that. But um let me see. Someone said finally we have something in common. Appreciate it. Do I know Michael Aquino? I don't. Not it's not ringing a bell. B.O.B. is pretty epic. Um You must be shadow banned today. It's not a popular topic. When I do more popular topics, people will see it. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it. Someone said check out Tom McDonald. Well, I don't know if I think Tom McDonald's independent. So I think he's crushing it on the independent. As a fan, though, this is just my view. I feel like he's very repetitive with his music. Like I've heard the same concept and same song like 100 times. So he's doing fine. He doesn't need my opinion. I'm not knocking it, but as like someone who liked him for a while, I'm like just kind of bored with this stuff because I think he makes viral videos and it's good, but like I love the art and like I'm just like I've heard that song 100 times now. Same concept, same type of hook, same flow, same type of beat. Like I'm tired of it personally, but who cares about my opinion? He's making millions of dollars and making millions of views, so to each his own. It's definitely marketable. Let me see. Kid Rock. I did like Kid Rock when I was growing up. My dad bought me that CD. I remember that. The song Only God Knows Why, it's still a great song. He like sang in autotune. If you have one of Kid Rock's old CDs, that song is a classic. Why do I dislike Patty the Baddie? I'm actually glad you asked. So, because a lot of people won't care about this, but I do. I love MMA. I'm gonna start with I didn't always dislike Patty the Baddie. I thought I like his hair, I like his British accent, but I'm gonna start with a couple weeks ago before this last fight. I watched an interview thinking he was going to be way cooler because I'm like, I like his accent, I like his hair, he's a good fighter, he's coming up, everybody likes him. I'm not a hater. I'm like, I want to like Patty the Baddie. He's an MMA fighter, Patty Pimblett. So I watched the interview and I'm like, I don't like his personality. Like I like Bryce Mitchell. I like a lot of people. I like Conor McGregor. Like Conor's that dude. Khabib. I like Islam. I like Charles. Honestly, I don't dislike a lot of fighters. Like I like pretty much every fighter. But when I watched the Patty the Baddie interview, I just didn't like his personality. I felt like he had a crappy personality. Like I was like, I thought he would be funnier and more interesting. Like he just seemed very like childish and lame. And I'm like, this guy's not nearly as cool as I thought he'd be. And that was a couple weeks ago. But I'm still rooting for him because he's got cool hair. I'm into the zone. He fights Jared Gordon, right? Well, first of all, he beats with Ariel Helwani, which is, a lot of people like him. I stayed neutral in that because I didn't really know what to think about that. But then I watched the Jared Gordon fight and I rewatched it. He lost the first round. He lost the second round. Third round, probably, I think he lost all the rounds, but whatever. I guess one could have went the other way. At bare minimum, that fight should have been a split decision. At bare minimum, which either way it went, it had to be a split decision. I mean, there's no way it wasn't, unless it was going to be unanimous for Jared Gordon. And they gave it unanimous to Patty, which was nonsense. It was absolute nonsense. As somebody that's pretty fair, like I understand. Here's my opinion real quick about the Sean O'Malley thing. Everyone said, oh, it's the same as the Sean O'Malley fight versus Peter Yan. It's really not, because in that fight, Sean O'Malley did more damage and it was way closer. And if you looked at, Peter Yan's face, his face was bloodied and like for sure, Sean O'Malley did more damage in that fight and it was a way closer fight. I actually think Sean O'Malley won that, but it was close. I get it. You look at the Patty fight, Patty did like no damage to him. The only real shots and real damage was done by Jared. So it's not like you could spin it like the Peter Yan fight where it's like, well, Peter Yan had more takedowns but Sean O'Malley did more damage. In the Patty fight, he didn't do any more takedowns. He lost every category, damage, how the hell it's nothing like the Sean O'Malley fight. The Sean O'Malley fight was way closer. And Sean had a legitimate chance to win. Patty got blown out. And then after the fight, even Sean O'Malley was humble and said, I got to rewatch the fight. I don't know what happened. Patty's like, I won easy. That's like the fight of the night. Dude, he's such a liar. I don't think he's authentic at all. I think he's just one of these guys that's like, He's not nearly as, I mean, he could beat the crap out of me, let's be honest, but he's not nearly as good as Conor McGregor, but he's got that same type of hype. He's trying to get as much money as possible. He's telling Ariel he wants to get paid for interviews. Like he's just trying to like use his star status to get as much money. That's fine. Get your money because you're not going to get it the same way Conor McGregor is, because Conor is actually like a top fighter, one of the best ever. And Patty's not even a top 10 or 15 in the division. So he needs to get his money. I get why he was asking Ariel. And I'm not saying he's not a good fighter. He's one of the best in the world to fight in the UFC, but he's not top 15. I don't think he has a good attitude. He lost that fight. He acts like he won it and it was so easy. And I just think his whole shtick, like I don't dislike very many fighters. Like I think it's epic to fight. And if whether you're the bad guy or the good guy, like it's an epic job. And I respect even like the Colby Covingtons and the Jorge Masvidals. I like everybody. I didn't even like Patty before the fight. I just thought his attitude is just like weird. I don't like his attitude. I don't think he's like funny or interesting. He's always like, oh, suck my, like very childish. And I don't know. Everybody's entitled to be confident, but like I think it's false confidence and just kind of getting as much money as he can before he flops. That's just my opinion. So I don't know. I'm not even before this fight, I kind of wanted him to lose even before the fight. Like I wanted Jared Gordon to win, but yeah, it's getting to his head majorly, and it's like the hype is bigger than his fighting ability, and he's not even remotely humble about it. I don't think the cocky stuff works unless you win all the time. Like you got to be better to be that cocky, but what do I know? I watched an interview before the fight, and I'm like, oh, I was expecting him, and I was like, dude, this guy is like not that interesting. Like I'd rather listen to Islam. Islam Makhachev is funny. Bryce Mitchell's hilarious. I like him. A lot of people are interesting and funny. I don't find Patty very interesting. Um, Let me see. So now I'm getting into fighting. Yeah, I got to talk to like Benil Dariush the other day too, because he lives near me, and I had a convo with him. He's dope and underrated. That was cool. Yeah, I saw Bryce Mitchell said he had the flu. I saw that. That's unfortunate. Sounds like an excuse, but I mean, I believe him. I don't think he'd say it if he didn't. But you know, if you lose a fight and you're like, "Oh, I had the flu," I get why people don't even care. I still like Bryce though. I think he's a top 10 fighter easily, top 5 he could be. So he'll be fine. He'll bounce back. I like documentaries. Check out Babylon to America. I do. I like some documentaries for sure. Someone said sports keep our eye off the government. They love that. Yeah, I mean, I get it, but I do think the UFC has the most based performers. Like Israel Adesanya is one of the most famous fighters in the UFC, and he always says like, "Yo, why? What's going on with Ghislaine Maxwell? Like, where's her client list?" Bryce Mitchell talks a lot of stuff. He thinks that like I'm not even going to repeat what he says, or it'll take my channel down. Like they got some real truth tellers in the UFC, and Dana White doesn't penalize them for speaking the truth. Bryce Mitchell said a lot of stuff, and nobody cares. So yes, sports can be a distraction. I agree. I made that video. But I do think I like that the UFC fighters are allowed to say whatever they want and nobody penalizes them, because there are a lot of people using their influence for good in the UFC and some not. But if you're in the NBA or the NFL, you can't tell the truth. Like you get fined for telling the truth. You get kicked out of the league for telling the truth. Yeah, Bryce Mitchell says like he goes down the rabbit hole further than me and nothing happens to him. And he doesn't care if his video gets taken down because he's like, I punch people in the face and get $100,000. Like, yeah, take my video down. I don't care. So, yeah, Bryce is a legend. He's like a Southern boy. What about the dude who called out Kimmel? Yeah, I don't know his name, but yeah, he's epic. He went on my Instagram live. I got to think of his name. I don't know. He's like, Jimmy Kimmel, you're in on it. Like, dude, that guy's dope. And then he came in my Instagram live and he was like, Anomaly, I love your videos. I was like, based. That was fun. Let's see. Someone said Patty's capitalizing on the hype. Yeah, no, I listen, I want that guy to make as much money as he can. I just don't really like him, and I don't find his like attitude like authentic. I don't. Oh, King Bao. Yeah, King Bao. Yeah, he's the man. King Bao, BAU. That's the guy who's talking about Jimmy Kimmel. He's cool. Someone said UFC is owned by Ari Emanuel. That's why fighters had to denounce him. Yeah, I know he owns it, but for owning it or controlling it, he doesn't. I mean, Bryce Mitchell said a lot of stuff. I don't think they really care that much. But the Ye thing, did fighters denounce him? I didn't even see that, but it could happen. Someone said you need a good trainer, then turn you into a monster fighter. I don't want to be a monster fighter. I'm 33, so if I would have done wrestling when I was young, if you watch UFC, it's wrestling that beats jujitsu and wrestling that beats even punching. So if you're not a good wrestler, you're not winning, in my view. So there's no. I'm 6'3". I'm like 200 pounds. So in order to fight, I'd have to fight some monsters. I'm not a small guy, so a lot of these fighters that look huge, they're like 150, 160. I'm 200. I could probably get down to like 185 if I had to, but dude, I don't at 33, I'm going to just jump in with no experience in wrestling and I'd get my ass kicked. Like these guys are good. Even Patty the Batty, it's like, dude, he's a monster. He's one of the best in the world. Not top 15 in his weight class, but good enough to be in the UFC. Like he'd win a fight. The dude can grapple like crazy. Someone said Anomalati confirmed 33. Is that like a Illuminati? Anomalati? I'm not a Freemason and I'm not in the Illuminati. My bank account would be much bigger if I was in the Illuminati. I don't know about Freemasons. There's a lot of Freemasons that just go to bars and have like normal jobs. They're not all crushing it. It's like saying every Catholic's with like the Pope. It's like most Freemasons are just hanging out and don't even have that much. Someone said, why Elder said, sorry I came in late, but I definitely love to have a conversation on police and how they have weaponized the justice system against the people. I'm willing to debate a libertarian. I stated my piece today, but I'm not just going to say what I'm saying and like run away and be like, ha ha ha, I win. I do want to have a debate with somebody that's cool. Maybe Clint will come on again. I mean, he probably disagrees with certain things I said. He's cool. Or Dave Smith. Or Maj Toure. I talked to Maj too. I don't know. He just seems like he gets upset really quickly. Like I don't care. Like I don't care that he disagreed, but he got like super emotional about it real quick. Do I think the Freemason founding fathers are demonized because they were Christians and wrote the Bill of Rights? I can't answer that. I mean, I don't know who they are. Some people say they were Christians. Some people say they were Freemasons. Maybe they were both. I don't know if that's even possible. I don't know enough. I just know that the Constitution's pretty solid, and at that time, most people were Christian, so it functioned differently. But someone said rap battle versus Tom McDonald. In the right setting, I would, but I don't dislike him. I guess just as a fan, like I think he does more concept songs. Like he does songs that do good on social media. Like it's smart. He's a marketing genius, Tom. I guess I'm just like I'm personally I'm over it. I've seen it so many times. It's the same thing, same beat, same hook, same concept, like just a little bit different. But it always goes viral because his message is good. It's more like something that I probably wouldn't put on my playlist anymore. But I watch. I'm like that's a good message. An Anomaly song produced by Ye would be fire. It's not out of the options for sure. Someone said the dollar's covered in ancient Egyptian symbolism. George Washington and the founding fathers were all 33-degree Masons. I mean, there's no denying that there's all sorts of ancient symbolism on dollars. That's not Christian, and I mean, not that I know of, like the eye and the pyramid. I don't know what all that's about. Let's see. What if I told you grew from a liquid smaller than a single grain of sand? I would say maybe. I don't know how big sperm is, but probably not a lie. Someone said I like your rap better. Also, that beat. I mean, there's no denying that Tom McDonald's like way bigger than me when it comes to music. I don't know about all socials and stuff with other stuff I do, but like music wise, he's got more streams. His videos get millions of views. He's killing it. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I do think I'd make more unique stuff, and I'm coming like different flow, different angle, different type of beat. I'm not saying you have to all the time, but I feel like you could play 30 of his songs and they all sound like the same flow, same hook, same style hook, same beat. Like it's like how many times are people going to listen to the same exact concept 30 different times? I'm over it, but it is what it is. It's working. Uh, he's making he's making a lot of money. It's like, who am I to judge? Like, it's a good message. Kids are listening. It's better than Drake, I think, or whatever. I don't, not to single out Drake, but one thing that is interesting though, Bryson Gray pointed it out to me, is there's this Rolling Stone interview where they interviewed him, and they came to his house and did a sit down text interview. And if you read it, if you Google Rolling Stone, Tom McDonald, like MAGA rapper who doesn't believe what he says, it's this whole article where he like doesn't like Kyle Rittenhouse. He's wearing a mask. He made the interviewer sit 6 feet away from him. He was a professional wrestler before. I'm not knocking him because I think his music videos are dope, and I think the fact that he's independent's dope and his message is better than most. I'm not knocking him, but I am curious. Like, does he really believe this stuff, or is it just like, is he acting and like just tapping into a market that's underfed? Because when I read that interview, I read the whole thing. To me, it sounded like he wasn't even conservative, or like, like, how are you going to be a anti-system rapper that wants the interviewer to stand 6 feet away from you wearing a mask, think Kyle Rittenhouse is bad, some gun control's good? Like, it's not adding up. It sounded like he didn't really believe a lot of stuff. Like, it's almost like he's just doing it, like, which is weird because it sounds like he believes himself. When you listen to his music, he sounds passionate. He doesn't sound like Dr. Oz. Maybe he does believe himself, but he's like Canadian conservative, where they're not really that conservative. I don't know, but to me, it's kind of odd to be someone as smart and awake as Tom McDonald, who also wears a mask and makes the interviewer stand 6 feet away. And this was in like, I think 2021. This was like a year after the lockdown. Like, I don't know. Something about that just, and then he used to be a pro wrestler. Something about that was a little odd, but I'm not going to knock him. God bless him. And just like, like everyone else, I'm a consumer of news. I could sit here and lie and say I believe everything, but when I read the news as a independent person who likes him and likes some of his songs, like, I was like, what? That's kind of odd. Read that article. I'm just saying. I was like, Bryson pointed it out to me, and I was like, this is definitely a little weird. But everyone doesn't agree with you on everything, and maybe that's just what it is. But the concepts are good. The music videos are good. The lyrics are good. As a fan of rap, I'm just over the repetitiveness of like the same flow, same hook. But better, it's definitely better than any other rapper, I think, like as far as message wise. So net positive, I would say. Oh, okay, she has a respiratory illness, his girl that has problems. That might be, yeah. I mean, I understand they were being cautious. I'm not writing it off. I just thought it was interesting. I mean, I'd like to have a interview or something and ask questions, but it's all good. It's just like if someone said, "Oh, I don't like that song that much of yours," it's like I'm not going to hate you for it. Be like, "That's fine." I got you. She has bad asthma. That makes sense. I think he's like, in America, conservatives are way more conservative, and I think he's from Canada. So with the gun stuff, I don't, like even Jordan Peterson, like Jordan Peterson's conservative, but then he comes to America and falls for gun propaganda. I think Tom might just be like a further, like he's not like super Christian or anything. He's not like, oh, like all gun control is bad and we need Christian values. He's more like libertarian, I guess, where he's like, I don't care. I don't care what you are. Like, we could take some of the guns, but that's not libertarian at all. I don't know. I think he's just like Canadian conservative. That could be it, which is fine. Everyone doesn't have to see like me, but yeah, I mean, I don't know the Rittenhouse thing. I could look it up. Let me see, just to be accurate. House Tom McDonald. Let me see. I'm gonna look it up real quick, just because I'm curious as well. Yeah, Rolling Stone says how to become a maggot rap kingpin without believing what you're saying. Former wrestler Tom McDonald built his fan base rapping to the right wing talking points, but what does he really believe? So they kind of, and I don't trust Rolling Stone, but they kind of framed it as like, does he even really believe this? Let me see. Kyle Rittenhouse. Let me find it. I'm just gonna search real quick. Rittenhouse. Um, Let me see. I don't know. I need more time. I created a blank slate account. The algorithm put in Rittenhouse by James, Tyson James, I guess an artist. Let me see what it says. Bring the muscle, pull up at a politician's house. Oh, Tom McDonald said he effed up somebody else's life, championing him. That's effed up to me. So that was his take on that was Tom McDonald's take on Kyle Rittenhouse. He said he effed up somebody else's life, championing him. That's effed up to me. So I guess that's his stance on Kyle Rittenhouse. Like, oh, Kyle Rittenhouse just screwed up someone's life, and that's super messed up. So I guess he's like a black rifle coffee kind of conservative, where they're like, yeah, guns are good, but Kyle Rittenhouse is bad. So I mean, he's allowed to disagree, but I know that's what Black Rifle Coffee did, and people were like not having it. They were like crapping on Kyle Rittenhouse. It's like, okay, everyone can view that situation differently, but I don't think he like screwed up someone's life, like he went out and killed them. I think, the evidence in court showed clear that he was trying to protect his neighborhood from like crappy vandals and people doing stuff, and someone tried him. I mean, that's you could read the whole interview because it's like he answered questions, so you could read it, but I don't I don't fall for like, well, I need to believe that because they said that, but that's a direct quote, so that's what he thinks. Doesn't I just think he's Canadian conservative. It's like Jordan Peterson. They're not as American because they didn't weren't born and raised here. So it doesn't mean they're terrible people, but they don't understand the concept of the Second Amendment as much as Americans. So even though Jordan Peterson's cool, he's like, oh, Matthew McConaughey makes a lot of sense. Like, no, he that's how you end up like Canada. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but it's like the reason Canada is because the left is like further left and the right is like moderate and they don't have the value. So now the handguns are going away. It's a slippery slope. In America, we like to say, whether it's Tom or Jordan, God bless you, we appreciate you. But, their self defense is there for a reason. And the Second Amendment, like Matthew McConaughey might say a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, he's talking about more gun control. And, I guess some people agree with that, but they don't see the slippery slope. All right, I'm gonna take off. I stayed too long, but I had a good time. I promise I will debate somebody in the next month or so. If I don't do it in the next couple of days, I'll probably do it after Christmas because I might take a little break and just wind down a little bit and prepare my meal for Santa Claus, as they say. Leave some cookies there so the fat guy could eat them. Just in case there's any kids watching, we got to keep it Christian, keep it Christmas. But I will debate a libertarian for those who do disagree. I think it will be good as a back and forth, and I look forward to it. Whether it's like the Mises Caucus guy or anyone, I'm on it. Appreciate you guys.